Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Sandaime sent Naruto on a training trip with an Anbu squad. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It was 10th of October. The day the village celebrated the defeat of the most feared demon, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto Uzumaki was only 12 years yet he was getting beaten by the same villagers he promised his Jiji that he would protect. He didn't do anything wrong when this man came up to him, said the Hokage wanted to see him. When the boy was about to turn around and follow the man, he suddenly felt darkness claim him. When he woke up he was pinned to a cross with wooden spikes driven through his hands. Why are you doing this to me? Naruto cried out. Unfortunately his cries only spurred the villager on even more. You dare ask why? You little bastard. I'll kill you, cried the man. He raised a sword over his head. Naruto looked around trying to find a way out, but his teachers at the academy always sent him out for being disruptive, so he didn't have any knowledge on how to get out of situations like this. Naruto closed his eyes and focused on the energy he felt inside and directed it towards the man in front of him. The wooden spikes shot out of his hands and hit the man in the eyes, making him cry out in pain. Naruto's body fell to the ground, but he had not stopped channeling the energy, so when his hand hit the ground, they sprouted plant roots and wrapped around the assailant, making him struggle, but the vines didn't let go. The man stopped struggling when the roots loosened, but regretted it as the roots tightened, and this time with more force. Just when the Anbu were going to interfere, the roots started constricting around the man. Finally it ended in a shower of blood. The Anbu, the leader who had gravity-defying hair, picked up Naruto and took him to the hospital while he sent Deer to report to the Hokage. Hokage's office. Hokage-sama. The Sandaime groaned as he looked up wearily. It was 10 o'clock, he had just finished all of his paperwork for the day, and he'd expected to be able to go home and snatch a few hours of blessed Icha paradise before having to return to his desk. Unfortunately, it seemed that Kami had taken a perverse pleasure in denying him holy book. Yes. What is? He trailed off as he looked at the doorway. Standing there was an Anbu, face covered by a deer mask. From his build, the Hokage could clearly tell that it was a man, but that was not the only thing he could tell from the man's body. The knuckles clenched so hard they had turned white, the small trembles, the slightly shaking voice, all this spoke a clear message. This man was terrified. We have a situation regarding you, Uzumaki Naruto. Red washed over the Sandaime as he leapt to his feet. What's happened? Has there been another attack? Yes. How is he? He's in the hospital, being treated for blood loss and exhaustion, but Hokage-sama, his attacker. The Sandaime looked at the Anbu sternly, ready to issue an order for the man to spend some quality time with Marino Ibiki. Who was it? We can't tell, he's dead. The Sandaime felt no sadness at this, only surprise. How did he die? Why can't you identify him? The Anbu took a deep breath. Hokage-sama, I think you should see for yourself. That sight, it was horrible. The only way to describe the man was that he was one of Orochimaru's experiments gone wrong. The body was mangled beyond recognition. The only way to identify the man was through a blood test, and with the medic nins around it was easy, but the roots did not want to let him go. The Hokage looked at the body with disdain and orders the Anbu to burn his body and remove all evidence of this incident. The council must not know about this incident, thought Sarutobi. Oh, and Deer-san, please burn the roots and tell Tenzo Yamato to meet me in the hospital. The Sandaime walked in followed by Inu and Tora. Hello Naruto, how are you feeling? The Sandaime greeted the boy. Naruto looked up at him with a hollow smile. I feel great, Jiji. Like every time I get beaten. It feels fantastic to know that you are protecting me. The Sandaime looked down with shame, but before he could utter any words, Naruto cut him off. Jiji, I will ask one last time, and I know you have lied to me before or just avoided my question. I want to know who my parents are and why the villagers hate me. The Hokage was about to retort when Naruto said, you will tell me or I will leave the village. It's up to you now, decide whether you will tell me or not. The Sandaime was in a tight spot. Should he tell Naruto or risk him leaving Konohagakure no Sado? Sighing, he decided to do what was right. Naruto, what I'm about to tell you will not leave this room. Do you understand? Naruto nodded quickly. The Hokage did some hand seals and slammed his palm onto the wall of the hospital room. Sealing jutsu. Vault of secrets. The sound of a steel door closing and locking was heard before the Hokage continued. Now Naruto, you have to understand that these are highly classified secrets. No one knows them apart from me and Jiraiya, my students. Firstly, the issue of the villagers hating you is because of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. It is sealed inside of you because you were born on that day. As for why you were chosen out of the other children, is because the Yondaime was a noble person and could not ask anyone else to give up their child. Your father's full name was Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash. As for your mother, her name was Kushina Uzumaki, the red hot-blooded habanero. Your heritage was not revealed to you because of your own safety. The village could not go through another war with a Wagakure or Kumagakure. Please Naruto, I beg you, don't hate the villagers. They are ignorant and don't know the difference between a container and its prisoner. The Sandaime was now on his knees, bowing his head down. Fine, I will do as you say. After all, I am the son of the Yellow Flash, but I have a few more questions and I want to lay down some conditions for me to stay loyal to you and only you, Naruto stated with emphasis on the word loyal. The Hokage nodded furiously. Okay, my first question is, what did I do to make those roots grow out of the floor? Naruto, that was the Shodium's bloodline unique to only him. It is called the Mokuton or wood style. It is said that he used his bloodline to create the forest that now surrounds Konohagakure no Sado. How do I have it? I currently don't know, but my theory is that the Uzumakis and the Senjus were closely related. It is possible that the relationship between a Senju and an Uzumaki occurred, so the wood style was passed on. Okay, my last question is, can anyone teach me how to use this bloodline or any instructions that were left behind in case this bloodline had shown up again? Well, this is the reason Inu and Tora are here. I've decided that their Anbu squad will take you for 3 years and train to be a ninja and all arts, and including Kenjutsu and the basic theory of the Ninja Academy. My student Jiraiya will teach you Fuinjutsu and anything else he considers that will be valuable. Okay, my first condition is that I want to be moved into a new house. My old one has been broken into and robbed many times. I want this one to be protected from intruders. My second condition is that I want to reveal to my heritage to anyone I trust. My third and final condition is that if I come back from training and I'm attacked again, I will not hesitate to harm the person, be it a civilian or ninja, and leave the village without any obligations that bring me back or relate me to this village. Alright, I will agree to those conditions. You will be leaving in 2 weeks. In this time space you will be escorted around by one of my personal guards called Nico. Time skip. 2 weeks later, the Chunins at the west gate woke up feeling someone using Shushin to arrive. Good to see you awake, Izumo-san and Kaketsu-san, Tora said with sarcasm. The two Chunins turned to see an Anbu squad standing there. Suddenly the Hokage arrived with Naruto. Over the week Naruto had gotten a new set of clothes consisting of a blue sleeveless shirt and black cargo pants. The Sandaime started introductions. Alright Naruto, these are the people who will be teaching you for the next 3 years. Tora here is the only other person in the village that can use wood style aside from you. Inu is our ninjutsu specialist and has learned over 1,000 justus. Nico is our Kenjutsu and Jinjutsu specialist, and finally Turtle is our Taijutsu specialist and survival specialist. Jiraiya will join you halfway through your training trip. Now Naruto, I want you to behave for these people. They are giving up their personal time for you, my boy. Listen to what they say and follow their orders. Is that understood? Hi Jiji, I will see you in 3 years. Naruto gave the Hokage a quick hug and walked towards the Anbu squad. Take care of him, you four, the Hokage said sternly before using Shushin to go back to his office and start working on his paperwork. Tora picked Naruto up and put him on his back. Inu turned to the squad and nodded. The squad disappeared from view. Konoha's forest. 4 figures traveling at high speeds through the trees. Anybody watching would only see black blurs. After a while the figures dropped down to walk at a normal pace to approach the clearing. The person at the front is wearing an Inu mask, gravity-defying silver hair, and nodded at Tora, who set Naruto down and started doing some hand seals. Wood style. 4-pillar house technique. As soon as Tora said those words, the ground fell apart to give way to the wooden pillars. As the process went on, the house formed into a house you would see in a civilian part of town. The front of the house had the leaf insignia. The front of the house had small platform just above the ground surrounded by a fence, traditional Japanese sliding door. Leading inside, everything was made up of wood. The house had the basic need: a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom and 5 bedrooms. The squad moved into the living room and sat down after everyone was settled down. Inu started introducing himself and took off his mask. The only way to describe his expression is bored. Alright, my name is Kakashi. My likes are my icha books and training. My dislikes are something you wouldn't understand. My hobbies are training and reading my icha books. As for my dreams, I don't think you are the suitable age to know that. Now this kind of introduction would have been normal if it had not been for the multiple bouts of perverse giggling and lazy tone of voice. Naruto looked at the man as if he was losing his mind when suddenly a question popped into head. What's icha? Now Kakashi, being ignorant of the killing intent directed at him by the lone female member, decided to describe it to Naruto. Okay Naruto. When a guy and a girl love each a lot, they decide to have fun. At this point Nico decided that she should knock Kakashi out so that Naruto does not get any ideas or becomes a mini Kakashi and starts reading those little orange books. While this event occurred, the rest of the squad had massive sweat drops at the back of their heads. Back with Nico, who looked like a mini Shinganami, her Tornado representing the death god's knife, and Kakashi, who is now a twitching mess on the floor. At this point, Naruto thought it would be best to stay on the woman's good side. Boris stood up next. Okay, now that Kakashi-senpai is done with his giggling, I will continue. My name is Yamato. My likes are bonsai trees and training. My dislikes are people who are arrogant and people who make jokes about my wood-style jutsu. My hobbies are taking care of my garden and training. My dream is to become an Anbu captain. Naruto thought this man was okay, but seemed to have an obsession with trees and wood. Next is Turtle. My name is Mike Guy. My likes are my youthful friends and training to be youthful. My dislikes are unyouthful people whose flames of youth have dimmed. My hobbies are spending time with my youthful friends and doing youthful training. My dream is to pass on my flames of youth to the next generation. Naruto shivered every time this man said youthful and was even more freaked out when the man took his mask off to reveal two caterpillars on his face. So Naruto did the one thing that came to mind. He screamed, "Ah, what's wrong Naruto, my youthful student? Ah no, Guy-san, you have something on your face. What is it? It's those freaky things on top of your eyes." When Guy finally caught on to what Naruto was saying and replied, "That is a very unyouthful comment Naruto-san." Naruto shivered again. As this conversation between Naruto and Guy went on, Nico and Yamato seemed to get very big sweat drops at the back of their heads, while Kakashi was trying not to laugh out loud. Finally, when everything returned to normal, Nico stood up and started her introduction. "My name is Yugao. My likes are spending time with my friends and Kenjutsu. My dislikes are arrogant people and perverts. My hobbies are eating dango and practicing Kenjutsu. My dream is to become Konoha's Kenjutsu mistress." Naruto decided that this woman was perhaps the only normal person on the squad. Finally, Naruto decided to introduce himself. "My name is Naruto. My likes are ramen and people who don't hate me. My dislikes are the Uchiha clan except for Itachi and people who hate me. My hobbies are playing pranks on people who are mean to me and finding new ways to prank people. My dream is to become a great shinobi like my dad and Jiji." All of the shinobi smiled, knowing if anyone could accomplish this it would be Naruto. The next day, "Alright Naruto, now we as your instructors would like to know what type of a ninja you want to be." Kakashi asked. "I really don't know. What kind of ninja are there?" Naruto asked with confusion. "Okay, well, take me for an example. I rely heavily on ninjutsu, which means I use techniques like a fireball or a water dragon. Guy uses taijutsu a lot, so he uses his physical conditioning to harm an opponent. Yamato is both a ninjutsu and taijutsu user, but his speciality is stealth and infiltration, so he has to be very quiet. And finally, Yugao uses chakra attacks formed by her sword and uses a kenjutsu style, which will help her defeat her opponent using either speed or strength. She also uses illusions to make her opponent confused." "Well, I was thinking if I could be specialized in all those things," Naruto replied. Kakashi was baffled for a few seconds before responding, "Okay, well, we'll see if we can do this in a year and 6 months, but it seems to be a stretch." Apparently Kakashi's serious demeanor didn't seem to last very long. Suddenly a dark aura surrounded him and he said in a deep voice, "Let the training begin." Time skip 8th of October. Around about a year cause they left 2 weeks after his birthday. Over the time he spent with the squad he became more familiar with them, even gave them honorifics that someone would use in a family. He started calling Yugao Ni-chan, he called Kakashi Aniki, he called Guy Oji, means uncle, and he called Yamato Nai-san. Naruto was still the smallest out of the group at 157 centimeters tall, but he was still tall for a 13-year-old kid. It was kind of a wonder what proper food could do, and the physical training that Guy had him do helped him a lot building up his stature. His chakra reserves were high Anbu to low Sannin. His ninjutsu was rated around high Chunin. His chakra control was high Chunin. His kenjutsu was already around Yugao's level, which was saying a lot for his skill, since Yugao could match one of the 7 swordsmen of mist. His genjutsu was still low genin, he just could not fine-tune his control to do genjutsu, although he can still dispel most genjutsu that are used on him and only knows one genjutsu, which is called genjutsu. Infinite darkness jutsu, but instead of just blocking the sight of a person it blocks out the other senses like touch, smell, hearing and chakra sensing. His Fuinjutsu is high Chunin because Kakashi didn't know much on the subject. He even remarked that Naruto had surpassed him when he made personalized tags that store chakra attacks in them and launch only when an enemy passed the sensor seals. His taijutsu was low jounin, which is speaking very highly of him, since his healing factor kicked in whenever a muscle was torn. It was rebuilt in mere second. This made wearing weights very advantageous, since he could have 15x his own weight on his body and still walk normally after 10 minutes. Of course this did not deter Guy at all, so he had Naruto use Boulder to weigh him down. Crazy freaking spandex lavadriver, Naruto thought bitterly. His Mokuten jutsu were coming along nice, but so far he only had wood style. Transformation, wood style. Wood clone, wood style. Domed wall jutsu, wood style. Tree binding and wood style. 4-pillar prison. Yamato said it is good progress because wood style is very hard to control. 10th of October, Naruto's birthday. A wave of dread washed over Naruto as today was his birthday, so he used his limited knowledge to put seal tags in his room and stop anyone coming into his room. He did some hand seals and called out, "Wood style. 4-pillar prison jutsu." He slammed his palm onto the floor. As soon as his palm touched the floor, wood sprouted at an alarming rate before creating a barrier around him and encompassing him and his bed in darkness. At this point he just sat on the bed, thinking that the day might finish without the others noticing him. That was proven wrong when his whole room was disassembled. He knew it was Yamato's doing because he was the one that made the house the only thing that separated them, now was the four-pillar prison, so Naruto just sat there hopelessly staring into the darkness, hoping it would help him escape the world of pain he was about to experience. All those hopes were dashed when Yamato pushed his chakra into the prison and dispelled it. Naruto closed his eyes ready to feel pain, but was surprised when he was embraced by the only female member softly speaking. "Itato, don't worry, no one's going to hurt you, Yugao." Naruto opened his eyes to see Kakashi with a party hat on his head and a box wrapped in a paper with pictures of dogs on them. Standing next to him was Guy, who was grinning like an idiot, had the same thing, except the wrapping paper was colored green. Yamato stood there with a scroll in his hand and a small smile on his face. Yugao had put her package on the floor. It was very long with shining sliver wrapping paper, but there were two people he had not expected. The first person was his Jiji. He had two scrolls in his hands, but Naruto didn't recognize the last person. He had large white hair shaped like a mane, a headband with the kanji for oil on it. He also had red lines that ran down from his eyes. He wore a green short shirt, kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that showed out of the sleeves and legs of his outfit. His outfit was completed with hand guards, a simple black belt, traditional Japanese jeta, a red cloak with two simple yellow circles, and a scroll on his back. He had grin on his face and was holding a package with pictures of toads on it. All in all, Naruto never felt happier. He finally knew how it felt to have a family. After Yamato reformed the room, they all left and started getting comfortable in the living room. There was silence. It was kind of awkward. Finally Naruto broke the silence. "Najiji, who is this person?" Naruto asked, confused by the tall man's presence. "Naruto, this is Jiraiya, he is my student and was your father's sensei. Now he will be your Fuinjutsu teacher and he will teach you your father's jutsu, except for the flying thunder god jutsu." Naruto opened his mouth to ask another question but was interrupted by Kakashi. "Now Naruto, save your questions for later and open your presents," Kakashi said in his irritatingly lazy tone of voice. Hi Nikki, geez, have some patience. At the pace you're walking there I'll be a bag of bones." Naruto went over to the presents he found the one guy was holding. He shivered. If this was a green spandex suit he would burn it and say it was a training accident. He finally gained his senses and opened it only to gasp at the contents. It was nunchakus with ornate golden handles, spike chain connecting them together with a kanji for golden storm on the end of each handle. It was simple but deadly when used in battle. Naruto just thought it was cool. "Naruto, for the next 6 months I will teach you how to handle those in battle." "Arigato Oji," Naruto said with his voice laced with happiness. "You're welcome, my youthful student," Guy said with his million-watt smile. Naruto shivered. He still hadn't gotten used to the word youthful. Naruto next picked up Yugao's present. It was long but thin. He opened it. Was a katana. It looked simple, a long flat blade with a ceramic handle, but the ceramic was reinforced with seals that constantly pushed chakra into the handle. The seals were concealed by a green dragon engraved into the handle. "Push some chakra into it," Itato, Yugao instructed. Naruto did as she told him. The blade glowed green and started extending. It shaped itself into a large scalpel shape before stopping. It was now about as big as Naruto. Despite its size, it was very lightweight. After he retracted his chakra, it went back to its normal size. He gave Yugao a quick hug and moved on to Kakashi's present. It was a square object and looked awful lot like a book. Kakashi and the others started sweating as Yugao glared at the silver-haired man. Yugao thought that Kakashi had given Naruto his Icha book. Everyone was relieved when it was discovered to be a book of sealing by the fourth Hokage. "Thanks, Aniki." "No problem, little guy," Kakashi replied. Naruto huffed and looked at him annoyed but smiled and moved on. The next present was from Yamato. It was in a scroll. He opened the scroll and pushed some chakra into the seal. In a puff of smoke appeared a small bonsai plant. "You'll have to take care of that on, it's very rare. I had gotten the seedling from the land of tea." Next was the Sandaime's present. There were two scrolls. One head was very large with a picture of a primate on it. Seeing Naruto's confusion, the Sandaime decided to elaborate. "Naruto, that is the summoning scroll for the monkeys. Since my son Asuma didn't want to sign it and my grandson Konohamaru is too young to sign it, so I want you to sign it. In case I don't make it to the age where Konohamaru can sign it, I want you to give it to him. I am entrusting you to my family heritage." Naruto got tears in his eyes at this admittance because the Sandaime would give him something so valuable. Moving on to the next scroll, he focused some chakra into the seal. In a puff of smoke, there was a bow staff in his hands. It was a simple metal staff, nothing out of the ordinary. The Sandaime decided to explain to Naruto why the staff is so simple. "Naruto, I know you have mediocre knowledge of seals, so I want you to experiment with the staff and see if you can do anything to enhance its strength or make it something out of the ordinary. The monkeys will teach you how to wield the staff proficiently." Naruto nodded, happy with the presents he was getting. Next, Jiraiya stepped up and pulled a large scroll of his back. "Naruto, it was one of your father's last wishes that I train you. I will be back in next six months and you will officially be my apprentice, training to be the next Toad Sage. I will also teach you your father's first technique he ever made, the Rasengan, and I will be teaching you to become a seals master. But for now I want you to sign the Toad contract. This is a very big honor since no person has ever been signed onto 2 contracts. Me and Sarutobi-sensei have talked to our summons, and they will test you to see if you are worthy of summoning them. If you learn the Rasengan and study all the seals I show you in a year, we will spend the next 6 months training you on Senjutsu. Jiraiya explained what Naruto had to do and signed both the Toad and Monkey contract. Well, now that the presents are opened, let's eat the cake. After a while the Sandaime stated he needed to leave, and Jiraiya said that he has to go and manage his spy network. Time skip 6 months. Okay Naruto, today I'm going to show you how to summon. Here are the seals Kakashi started. Or dog bird monkey ram, summoning jutsu. Okay Naruto, I want you to do the same, put as much chakra in it as you can to summon the boss. Also think about which animal you will summon. Hi Kakashi sensei. Or dog bird monkey ram, summoning jutsu. There was a large puff of smoke. The smoke quickly cleared to show the hulking form of the monkey. Its body and tail is covered by white fur which protrude from his sleeves and pants. He had long white hair that reached into his back and long sideburns and a goatee. He wore a black suit with mesh armor underneath, over which he wears a sleeveless kimono shirt with white fur trimmings and markings reminiscent of tiger stripes on it, which is held closed by a sash. Here is in why have you summoned me? The monkey's voice was deep. Sorry but mistaken sir, I summoned you, Naruto replied. So you are the son of the Yellow Flash, Enma stated. Yes sir, my name is Naruto. I am the boss summon of Monkey contract. My name is Enma. Well, go on and summon the boss Toad, then get this test over with. Or dog bird monkey ram, summoning jutsu. This time the smoke was bigger, the figure was larger and wider. Finally the smoke cleared to reveal the giant form of Gamabunta. He is colored a dull, rusty red, but around his eyes and on his lips and chest are brighter red markings. Over his left eye, he had a scar. He is wearing a large blue vest and carries a massive blade at his hip. Okay Gaki, so you're the new summoner, alright, you have to stay on top my head for the whole day. Does it matter how I do it? Naruto asked curious. Not really, Bunta replied, confused by the question. Naruto created a Kagebunshin. He had the clone stay on the ground while he jumped onto Bunta's head. As soon as Naruto's feet touched Bunta's head, his clone started hand seals and finally called out, Earth style. Swamp of the underworld. The clone slammed its palm onto the floor close to where Gamabunta stood. Suddenly the earth started turning murky and Gamabunta started sinking into the swamp. The clone stopped pushing chakra into the swamp when Gamabunta was in the mud just under his shoulders. Kakashi and Enma sweat dropped at the scene. Finally, at the end of the day, Naruto let Gamabunta out of the swamp. Gamabunta begrudgingly admitted that Naruto had completed the challenge. When he turned to face Kakashi and Enma, only to sweat drop at the scene of Kakashi trying to get his orange book back from the primate, who was reading it with enthusiasm while holding Kakashi back with a hand. Naruto coughed to get their attention only for them to ignore him. Naruto gained a tick mark on his forehead. Doing some hand seals, he slammed his palm on the floor. Wood style. Tree binding. Both the Anbu and the primate seemed to snap out of it when Naruto restrained them. Naruto turned to Enma questioningly. Enma only seemed to get confused until Naruto decided to elaborate. So are you going to test me? Well you already passed my test when you trapped Gamabunta in the swamp, replied Enma. Cue massive sweat drop. Enma quickly de-summoned himself along with Kakashi's Icha book, leaving a blubbering Kakashi on the floor. Naruto started to look nervous because of how much Kakashi was crying, but was relieved when Kakashi stood and suddenly brought out another copy of the book. 2 weeks later. Okay Naruto, today Jiraiya-sama will be coming to take you on as his apprentice, Kakashi said. Although it had been a while since Kakashi had his Icha stolen, he still hadn't gotten over what had happened. Everyone was nervous because they could always hear Kakashi muttering about evil monkeys stealing his precious Icha, but when they asked him about it, he would go back to his lazy personality and say you say something. Which seemed to energize Guy and have him running Naruto into the ground when he was training. Then Naruto comes back in and glares at him, then goes to sleep. This routine ran for every day, until today when he was informed that Jiraiya will pick him up. Naruto was excited because this was the first time in a year and a half that he would be moving outside the Fire Country's border. Naruto was brought out of his musings when a large puff of smoke appeared. When it cleared, it showed the same man who had visited him on his birthday, but he had forgotten his name. Mister, what was your name? Jiraiya face planted but got back up and summoned a toad with a large grin on his face. He started his introduction. It's been said that I'm the Toad Sennin, and that's not all. In the north, in the south, east and west, the legendary 3 ninjas, white-haired toad summoning child. The handsome man that can silence a crying child. He's Jiraiya-sama, that's me. Naruto never even heard the end of the intro. He looked up at the man and said, are you sure that the baby wasn't petrified from looking at you? Naruto tilted his head to the side, seemingly making him look innocent. Jiraiya's sweat dropped as he saw the Anbu members on the ground laughing their hearts out. Jiraiya grumbled about disrespectful disciples and turned away from them sulking finally, after regaining his dignity or whatever is left of it, he stood up and said, "Come on Gaki, we have to get going otherwise we will lose my contact." Jiraiya turned away and tried to walk off only to be caught by the collar by Yugao, who took him behind a tree. All the males winced in sympathy when they heard the girlish screams of the Sannin. Finally Yugao dragged the Sannin back by his hair and dropped him onto the floor. Naruto looked at the twitching mess that is supposed to be his teacher for the next year and a half and nudged him with his foot. Jiraiya quickly got up and repeated his orders to Naruto. When Naruto had finally left, the demeanor of everyone changed. Even Guy was acting serious. "So how good is he?" Jiraiya said. "He's done well, he's almost low jounin in ninjutsu, his kenjutsu is top because of his shadow clones helping him. Guy believes that his taijutsu is high jounin, he has never had a talent for genjutsu, so low chunin, since he can cast one and dispel all others. His fuinjutsu is high chunin since he started to learn from the book I gave him, but that was a 3rd volume book, so it could never get him above that. His wood style is progressing very well, he has all of Tenzo's techniques down, now all he has to do is make his own technique. His chakra natures are earth, water and wind. Altogether I would put him at special jounin." Just as Kakashi ended, Naruto came back in with a sealing scroll. Jiraiya grinned at Naruto and said, "Come on Gaki, we are going to be traveling, so the scroll is a good idea." Jiraiya waved at the Anbu squad, along with Naruto, before vanishing into the darkness of the forest. Time skip 1 year. Jiraiya appeared in a puff of smoke. "Yo Naruto, you ready to get going?" Jiraiya asked. Yeah, calm down Iro-senin, I'm coming. "Don't get riled up just because you can't go to the hot springs," replied Naruto. "God damn it brat, stop calling me that, and you're being a hypocrite since most of the times I see you there merging into the fence using your bloodline." Jiraiya replied, agitated that he couldn't get the brat to respect him and that the bloodline gave the boy such an advantage. Jiraiya smirked. "And I think you got caught last time as well." Flashback. Jiraiya sat near the fence giggling like a schoolgirl. Naruto at first got irritated but could care less since he was about to merge himself into the fence. He had done it a lot of times since Jiraiya had literally thrown him into the women's side of the hot springs when learning about the bird and bees. Naruto focused on merging into the bamboo and then blending into it, not standing out too much. Once he had merged fully into the fence, he opened his eyes to the world of nude women. Although he hated to admit it, he had started reading Jiraiya's books, and they were good. Naruto looked around and started to get a slight nosebleed, but concealed it quickly. Naruto heard the noise of water dripping and saw that a woman with black hair had just stepped out of the water. Naruto gaped as he saw the woman. She is a goddess, plump that jiggled with every step, a firm-looking rear and legs that seemed to go on forever, shaved crotch with pink lips that looked very inviting to him. He was broken out of his musing when he heard a whistling nose getting closer to him. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the kunai heading straight for his family jewels. Naruto shifted to the left side of the fence so that it would pass harmlessly. The woman narrowed her eyes at the fence and put her hand in the seal to dispel a genjutsu. Unfortunately for Jiraiya, his invisibility genjutsu dispelled. Even worse for him, he was sitting comfortably on the side of the women's hot springs. Fortunately for Naruto, all the women seemed so caught up in beating Jiraiya to death, so he to get out of the fence, but didn't take into account that the woman who threw a kunai would be a censor as well. The woman turned her head, sensing chakra being used. She saw a blonde melting out of the fence and narrowed her eyes again, this time leaking kai. Naruto looked behind him to see if anyone had noticed and let out a sigh when there was no one looking at him, but he hadn't taken into account that the woman would be right in front of him. Naruto turned his head, but his head was trapped in something. He moved his hand up to try to remove the object out of his face. Naruto grasped the objects and tried moving back, but the first thing he noticed was that the objects were round and very mushy, and when he squeezed them he heard a moan. Naruto paled at a rapid rate as he realized that the objects were, and the moan he heard was coming out of a woman's mouth. Naruto moved back, being very careful about how slowly he let his hands drop, and saw the red face of the same woman that had dispelled Jiraiya's genjutsu. The woman came rushing at Naruto, who was petrified beyond belief. Just as the woman was 3 meters away, Naruto regained his bearings and thanked the gods that he had left his weights off. He started running, leading her into the forest, hopefully leaving her confused. What Naruto didn't expect was that his speed would be too much to handle. Naruto tried to slow down, but tripped over a tree branch. Naruto landed on the ground face down and groaned. The woman stalked towards him and started to perform hand seals. Naruto's mouth opened in a silent scream. The woman smirked, and as if to complete a ritual, she reared her leg back and kicked him in the crotch. Naruto squealed in pain and horror as the kick had broken the genjutsu. The woman walked away satisfied with a job well done, but if she had stayed any longer, she would have seen the Naruto on the floor melt and the original come out of a tree trunk. Naruto winced in sympathy for the mud clone, but was thankful that their memories didn't come back to him. Naruto arrived back at the hot springs and collected his stuff and Jiraiya's and went straight to the police station to bail Jiraiya out. Naruto knew he was in there since it became a routine for him. After getting his sensei identified and bailed out, he sighed in relief. Aki, I wouldn't be relaxing right now. That woman that went after you is from Konoha. A Chunin level ninja but the most powerful genjutsu user in the whole village. I'd been on the lookout if I was, especially when you get back to the village. Although she is pretty good looking. Jiraiya grinned at him. Naruto looked curious before asking, so, what her name? Jiraiya wiggled his eyebrows at Naruto, giggling perversely. Then in a fake concerned voice said, my little apprentice is growing up. Jiraiya sniffled a bit before returning to his giggling. Naruto got irritated and asked again, seriously though, who is she? Naruto's eyes widened as Jiraiya pulled out an old scrapbook. He knew what that is. It is the encyclopedia of every woman that Jiraiya has peeked on, but it's detailed right down to the number of guys that the girls have even dated and for how long. Her name is Kurina Yuhi. She's around 17 or 18 years old. She got a pretty good mission record, but she's known as Konoha's Ice Queen for tuning down guys left and right. Says here that she's even turned down Asuma Sarutobi, the third Hokage's son. You got no chance, kid. She would murder you if she remembers you from this incident. Jiraiya grinned at him, while Naruto looked very pale. Flashback end. Right, let's see if you actually learned anything. Now summon Fukasaku-sama and get us into Mount Mamboku, Jiraiya ordered Naruto. Naruto, instead of retorting, just did as Jiraiya asked. Or dog, bird, monkey, ram, Mount Mamboku. Over the next 6 months Naruto changed a lot. He grew to be as tall as Jiraiya. His hair had grown to use Jiraiya's hair justus, but it was tied into a ponytail. He had finished the Rasengan, surpassed Jiraiya in making seals, learned one of his father's signature justus in a week. Jiraiya said that his rapid growth was due to the Kyuubi chakra being purified by the wood-style bloodline and speeding up his healing rate by 50%. It was stated as a fact that he could regrow limbs. Naruto-chan, you have come a long way. You have surpassed every human in history to attempt at gathering nature chakra, and we as your summons accept you as the new Toad Sage. Naruto felt proud of himself, but could not help but think what his parents would say. Would they be proud or would they be disappointed? Arigato Fukasaku-sensei, Naruto replied, a bit sad. What's on your mind, Naruto-chan? I can't help but think, well. You what, never mind, Naruto trailed off. Just as Fukasaku was about to say something, Jitora appeared with Jiraiya. Hey kiddo, how you doing? But no time for discussion, we have to get to Konoha, Jiraiya said quickly. What's with the rush? Naruto asked. No rush, I just want to finish my research. Yeah, Iro-sen, and Naruto replied, a bit annoyed. Stop calling me that brat, Jiraiya scowled at him. Apparently he had his mother's annoying personality. Well, at least he isn't running around in an orange jumpsuit yelling at everyone that I'm going to be Hokage, believe it. Sigh, Jiraiya snorted in amusement at that. Alright, are you ready? Naruto nodded. Jiraiya put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and they disappeared. Konoha forest outskirts. As Naruto and Jiraiya were traveling, something appeared in a puff of smoke on Jiraiya's shoulder. It was a messenger toad with a scroll in its hand. As soon as Jiraiya took the scroll, the toad dispelled. As soon as he finished reading the scroll, he looked at Naruto with a grim expression and said, Naruto, something important has come up. I will give you a map to follow and remember, walk when you approach the guards or they will see you as a threat. Got it? Naruto nodded and Jiraiya shunshined away, leaving Naruto with a map and his entry papers. Naruto just shrugged and activated his sage mode to move through the forest faster. 2 hours later, when Naruto arrived at the village gates, the Chunins took a defensive stance, but relaxed when Naruto showed his entry papers. Once Naruto came through the village doors, the dear Anbu appeared and told Naruto the Hokage wished to speak with him. He was led towards the Hokage tower. When they arrived, the Anbu went into the Hokage's office to announce his arrival. With a command to come in from the Hokage, Naruto entered. Naruto smiled, seeing the face of the old man he had not seen in 2 years. Najiji, how have you been? Naruto replied cheerfully. Sarutobi was outraged at the boy's behavior. Young man, I don't care who you think you are, but you are now in my village. I am the leader and you will show me respect. So you already forgot me, eh? You only saw me 2 years ago. So tell me, Hokage-sama, how many blondes do you know with 3 whisker marks on their cheeks and a very cheeky attitude? Naruto stated. Finally it dawned on him. Naruto, my boy, is that really you? My word, how did you manage to grow so quickly in such a short amount of time? What happened? The Hokage sputtered out. He listened to Naruto as he explained what happened on the training trip. He also told Naruto about wanting him to enter the academy under the guise of a younger form, to be able to keep to himself hidden using seals and gather info on the teaching methods of the academy and how the new batch of Genins will turn out. Okay, well, I will give you the rank of a Chunin. You will stay on your team until the Chunin exams. I know you would be a help to whatever team you're placed on. You will begin the academy in a week's time. I suggest you go ahead and activate your Genjutsu seal to give people a chance to get used to you being around town. Also, I kept a new house ready for when you returned. The Sandaime Hokage handed him a piece of paper with an address on it. Thanks, Jiji, that means a lot to me. I think I better head home and get things set up. I feel like making a special appearance at Ichiraku for a little ramen. It is good to see you again after all these years, Naruto. He said as he dismissed Naruto. As Naruto walked through the streets, he was trying to get used to his miniature form. He was now 1.4 meters with the appearance of a 12 or 13-year-old. He still had his long blonde hair in a ponytail and still had a slightly athletic figure. He wore a white tight-fitting t-shirt under a black vest to go along with his black cargo pants. It didn't take long for Naruto to arrive to his new apartment. Creating some clones, he gave them orders to fix up the place and stored away his items before heading to his favorite restaurant, Ichiraku Ramen Stand. "What can I get for you today, sir?" the young woman asked with a charming smile. "Well, Nichan, I'd love to start off with 6 miso ramen please. It's been too long since I've had any of your father's wonderful cooking," said Naruto happily. Naruto's familiar tone caused AM to take a second look at him, and when she recognized who he was, she immediately called for her father. "Father, come out here, you're never going to believe who's here." AM called to her father. "Who is it, AM?" "I was busy cleaning up back there," said Tucci as he walked out of the kitchen. Upon recognizing the boy form, the old man smiled. "Well, if it isn't my best customer Naruto. How have you been?" "I've been good. Life has been treating me fairly well, but it's nice to be back in a familiar place. Anyway, I was just ordering 6 miso ramen from AM Nichan here before she called you out here." "Right, I'll get those on them right away. In fact, I'll even make the first one on the house," said the old man heading back into the kitchen. Naruto spent his time eating and talking to AM as he tried to not go into detail about his training trip. When he was finished, Naruto said goodbye and paid his bill before heading home to get some rest. Over the course of the week, word had gotten around that the demon container was back and Naruto had to put up with their glares and mutterings of demon once again. However, now it no longer bothered him what people thought, since he had come to realize he could only be himself, and if that was not enough for people, then it was their loss. Something different from before though was that he had unintentionally begun to collect a steadily growing group of fangirls from the village. Time skip first day of Ninja Academy. When the day finally came for him to start at the academy, Naruto opted to wear just his t-shirt and cargo pants in order to look more like a civilian. Naruto arrived early in the classroom and found he was the only one there yet. Deciding to take a seat, he waited for the others to show up. When the children began to file in, he noted a few individuals who caught his eye. The first to enter was a boy he recognized by the name of Shino of the Aburam clan. He seemed very much like the quiet type and just sat down. The next to enter was a girl with dark indigo hair that Naruto recognized as the Hyuga heiress, Hinata. She was also appeared to be a quiet one, but when she met Naruto's eyes, she quickly looked away blushing and sat down. "Just great, another fangirl for me. I can't wait to get out of this disguise, maybe then all these girls will stop looking at me like this." The next three to enter were a group of boys Naruto recognized as Kiba of the Inuzuka, Shikamaru of the Nara, and Choji of the Akimichi. Naruto's first impression was Kiba was a horn dog, Choji loved food, and Shikamaru was lazy. The last three to enter that caught his eye was a boy and 2 girls who seemed to be fighting over him. "Looks like I'm not the only one with fangirls," Naruto thought in amusement. Naruto recognized the boy as Sasuke, one of the last Uchihas. To Naruto, the boy seemed to have a cloud of emo-ness around him. Naruto began to wonder if the boy was homosexual, as he didn't seem to pay attention to the affection of the girls around him. Anyways, the other 2 girls he recognized by the names of Sakura and Ino of the Yamanaka. They were both now fighting to sit next to Sasuke, with the one named Sakura eventually winning. Upon being defeated, Ino noticed Naruto and to his horror, she promptly forgot about the breeding Uchiha and ran to sit next to him. She just sat there looking dreamy-eyed at him. "God damn it, how many more fangirls am I going to get?" Naruto glanced over at the Uchiha only to see the boy smirking at him. "Damn you Uchiha, why can't you keep you fangirls to yourself? You just have to pawn them off on me, don't ya?" thought Naruto bitterly. The class finally began when the teacher, a man named Iruka, showed up. They spent the first day just sitting while they listened to one big lecture about chakra and what it was. Naruto was so bored that he took a page out of Shikamaru's book and took a nap. Iruka woke him up once and asked him to answer the question he just asked, but was surprised when Naruto answered it correctly after only having to repeat the question. Naruto just went back to sleep afterwards. Time skip end of the academy. I know might be too far, but I want to speed up to make the pairing. Note Naruto now looks like a 17-year-old. Naruto was about to go mad because of his fangirls when the final day came for the practical exam. When it was finally his turn to perform a simple bushin for his practical, he ended up going overboard, creating enough versions of himself to fill the entire room. Needless to say, Naruto passed with the title of Rookie of the Year. After Naruto received his headband, he decided to wear it as a belt instead of on his head. Once all the exams were finished, Iruka told everyone that passed to return the next day for team assignments. As soon as Naruto exited the academy, he was confronted by an Anbu telling him that the Hokage would like to see him and then disappeared. Curious to what the old man could want, Naruto took off towards the Hokage. Entering the Hokage's office, he was greeted by the Hokage. "Hello Naruto, I just received word that you made Rookie of the Year. No surprise there, huh?" After training with an Anbu squad and a Sannin, it was pretty evident. I did have an unfair advantage over the students, but I have been helping out those I saw that had potential, so it evens things out somewhat. I have no doubt about that. Now Naruto, the reason I called you here is to give you advance warning to the team I plans to place you on. Kakashi has personally requested you to be put on his team. Though unfortunately I could not grant this request as his attention is needed to focus on training Sasuke to use the Sharingan, and considering Uchiha Sasuke's inferiority complex, the team's teamwork would only suffer in the long run. I take it there is more to this. Kurenai-san as a Genjutsu user however seems desperate to prove herself worthy of the title of Jounin, so I have assigned her as a Jounin sensei. I would also appreciate it if you could also help her train your fellow teammates as you suggested. Of course, I'd be happy to help. I would like to make a request for who my teammates be though if I may. Hokage-sama. And who might they be? The Hokage asked curiously. I wish to be paired with Inyazuka Kiba and Hyuga Hinata. I can see a lot of potential in the two of them and believe they could work well together. Hinata has a very timid and quiet personality, while Kiba's is loud and aggressive. I believe that they would balance each other out and hopefully be a positive influence on each other. I had similar thoughts in mind. I was going to go with the initial plan of a tracking team, but a tracking team of specialists from other clans can be easily exploited over time. You should probably go home and get some rest. Taking that as his dismissal, Naruto left the office and headed home. When night time finally came, Naruto felt like he could not sleep so went out for some late night training. As soon as he activated his Sage mode he felt Jounin's and Chunin's chakra running all over the village. When he decided he should see what was going on he vanished and reappeared in the Hokage tower to get the full grasp of the situation. Most of the Jounins and Chunins were startled when Naruto appeared in front of the Hokage. So what's going on with the entire ruckus? Most of the room face planted at his question. Apparently Uchiha Sasuke has deemed it appropriate to steal the scroll of sealing and Kenjutsu's, the Hokage replied. Okay, you guys mind waiting here for about 5 minutes? Naruto asked. What are you going to do, Naruto? You'll find out, Naruto replied cheerily as he jumped out the window. As Naruto was falling to the ground he used his Sage mode to lock onto Sasuke's chakra and he simply disappeared. Back in the Hokage office. Hokage-sama, who was that boy? Asked a random Jounin. The Hokage replied that was Uzumaki Naruto. The rest of the room was smart not to comment about the boy's demon, except for a Chunin. Gee, what's so good about that demon brat? As soon as those words left his mouth everyone stepped back from the stupid ninja. The Chunin continued his ramble until he felt 5 different Kai concentrated on him. He stopped talking. Then in sudden movements Kakashi, Guy, Tora and Nico surrounded him. Nico had her blade poised at his neck, while Tora restrained him with vines growing out of the floor. In this time span Kakashi pulled up his headband to show his Sharingan spinning angrily, and Guy had his nunchucks out and a stony expression on his face. Nico spoke up first. You should realize that you are talking about our little brother, while the other 3 nodded along with her. The Chunin was too scared to respond, so he did the only thing logical to him, he fainted. Tora, Nico, Kakashi and Guy, control yourselves. Dear, take that Chunin to Ibiki for a fun session. All the ninja present shivered at the tone of the Hokage and felt nothing but pity for the Chunin. Back with Naruto. Naruto was traveling at his top speed. When he arrived at the scene he saw Iruka being attacked by Mizuki, while Sasuke stood there with a large scroll on his back looking on dumbly. Naruto dropped all his weights and created 2 clones, moving as blurs he knocked Sasuke, Mizuki and Iruka at a moment's notice. All 3 males dropped to the ground without seeing the assailant. Naruto had his clones pick up Iruka and Sasuke and take them to the hospital, while he picked up the scroll and Mizuki and disappeared in a burst of speed in the direction of the Hokage tower. Finally, after a minute of traveling he reached the Hokage tower and jumped to the window, while throwing Mizuki through the windows like a sack of potatoes and proceeded to jump in through the window. Every ninja stood there stunned as Naruto had taken down a Chunin, recovered the scroll of sealing and Kenjutsu in the time span of 5 minutes. Sup, everyone face planted at the simple greeting. Right, Naruto, tell me what happened, the Hokage asked going into business mode. Well, you see, retard, Mizuki over there promised Imo-sama. I think we all know who that is, that he would get lots of power to kill his brother if he learned a skill from the scroll. Then Dolphin-san crashed his whole plan and found Imo-sama before the retard could. Then the retard threw a Fuma shuriken at Imo-sama, but Dolphin-san being the good guy he has jumped in front of it. While Imo-sama watched Dolphin-san almost die. This is the part where I came in. First I took off my weights and the created 2 more clones knocked the 3 of them out. My clones took Imo-sama and Dolphin-san to the hospital, and I brought the retard here to be interrogated. Naruto explained the whole scenario, earning multiple snickers by the Hokage and several Jounins, while the Uchiha supporters were red in the face, but the most noticeable thing was Kakashi leaning on Genma, trying to get his breath back while having tears in his eyes. But it all came to halt when Naruto mentioned one thing. Digi, he smelled too much like snakes, Naruto said to the Sandaime. Suddenly the demeanor of everyone in the room changed into business mode. Thank you for the information, Naruto. You're dismissed. Team selection day. Naruto walked into the class which was filled only half. He decided to take a seat next to Kiba, who was currently talking to Akamaru about what kind of fish tastes good. Naruto would have laughed had it not been for the fact that last time he did Akamaru tried to bite him in the groin. A few minutes passed, the whole class was here except Iruka. Finally Iruka came in, but what got everyone's attention were the bandages on his back barely hidden the Chunin vest. Questions started firing in Iruka's direction, only to be answered with a glare. With everyone quiet, he decided to proceed with the speech and team selection. Starting today, all of you are real shinobi, but you are still genin. The hard journey that lies ahead has just started and blah 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 blah. Moving now, the teams are divided into three-man cell with a Jounin sensei. Now the teams are Team 7. Shino Aburam, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Jounin Kakashi Haddock, Team 8. Kiba Inyazuka, Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga, Jounin Kurenai Yuhi. Team 9 still in circulation. Team 10. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, Jounin Asuma Sarutobi. Your Jounin sensei will be here soon. After half an hour of waiting, Naruto got bored of waiting and turned on his sage mode. To his surprise, he found out that there was a genjutsu on the wall. He tried to sense further and found there was a chakra signature behind it, and then it struck him, his Jounin sensei is a genjutsu mistress. He turned to teammates and said, "Hey, you guys want to get things started with our sensei?" His teammates looked confused until Naruto motioned at a wall and threw a kunai. It was buried up to the hilt. Suddenly the wall started shimmering and a woman appeared with crimson eyes, black hair with a figure most women would kill for, and a bandage dress, but for some reason she seemed to glare at Naruto. Hiba being the horn dog, he whistles at the woman and starts drooling. Naruto, knowing what would happen next, decided to interfere. "So Kurenai-sensei, are we going to introduce ourselves or are you going to keep glaring at me?" "Well, Kiba fantasizes about you." Kurenai seemed to glare harder at Naruto. "Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. If you are late you fail," Kurenai said in a stern voice. Naruto disappeared and reappeared in between both Hinata and Kiba. He put a hand on both their shoulders and vanished. On the rooftop, Kurenai seemed to be in deep thought about what happened in the room. "How did he detect me? I was using an A-rank genjutsu." Kurenai decided to question him after his teammates left. Kurenai was so deep in her thought she didn't notice until Naruto tapped her on the shoulder. Before anyone knew it, Naruto had a kunai buried into his stomach by Kurenai. She looked horrified when Naruto stated to pull back, the blood pooling around his feet. He finally fell to the ground, his blue eyes now glazed over as they stared back at her crimson eyes. Suddenly the Naruto lying on the floor vanished out of existence. Then Naruto's voice rang out from behind her, close to her ear. Naruto said. She dropped the kunai and started hitting him on his chest. He didn't seem to move out of the way or dodging the attacks. In a swift movement he touched her forehead with his index finger and channeled some chakra into it, and she fainted. He turned to his teammates. They looked dumbfounded as Naruto just played a prank on a Jounin and then knocked her out. Naruto said to his teammates, "I think you should go home while I take her to the Hokage tower to report, and we will meet back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. His teammates just nodded dumbly and walked away. Naruto sighed and picked up Kurenai and jumped to the Hokage tower. As he was jumping, Kurenai seemed to snuggle more into his chest. He blushed like a cherry as he remembered the time Jiraiya had taught him about the birds and the bees. When he finally arrived at the Hokage tower, he burst in through the windows. The Hokage seemed startled by his entrance, but quickly calmed down when he realized who Naruto was carrying. He went into pervert mode and asked Naruto, "Naruto, don't you think both people should be awake for that kind of intimacy?" The Hokage said with a leer. Naruto tried to ignore the jab. Tried being the key word because right now Naruto was inventing new shades of red. After Naruto calmed down, he explained everything from finding Kurenai hiding under a genjutsu to making her faint. By the end of his explanation, the Sandaime was looking very serious. In his Hokage tone of voice he said, "Naruto, the prank you did could be very harmful to her mental health. The fact that you made her experience your death by her hands could very well psychologically break her mind." By now Naruto was panicking. In a desperate tone he asked, "What am I supposed to do?" Now Sarutobi had 3 things he could say to Naruto. As the Hokage, he would tell Naruto that he should sincerely apologize to Kurenai. His grandfatherly side would go with buy the woman dinner and apologize. His perverted side would tell Naruto to relax and get laid. Now he was stuck between 2 choices, his perverted side and his grandfatherly side. So he chose to combine them, and his ultimate choice being relax, buy the woman dinner and apologize, and maybe get laid. Now this worked out just fine. Now this didn't mean that the Hokage would vocalize these thoughts. He would put it gently and nudge Naruto in Kurenai's direction. After all, the woman did reject every man that tried to date her. She even turned down his son. Okay, here's what you do. Alright, tomorrow when you finish with your team you ask to speak with her alone and tell her you would like to make it up to her and ask her out for dinner. Whoa, hold on there, you mean ask her for a date? No, not like that, you are apologizing, but if she likes you after this you should try again, but this time you must be more relaxed, and one last thing, do not take her to Ichiraku's. I will arrange your reservation for you at a good hotel, you won't even need to pay for it, all charges go to the Namika's account. Now will you do as I say? Now Naruto, being the naive boy he has agreed to it all. Oh, and drop your Genjutsu seal so she will take you more seriously, plus people won't recognize you. Hi Gigi. Now good, you should probably wake her up now. She's kind of dangerous, can I use a clone? The Hokage answered with a shake of his head. So Naruto woke her up by shaking her shoulder a little, but she wouldn't wake, mumbling something about 5 more minutes. So Naruto finally decided to use a different method. He charged some chakra into his fingertips and gently pushed the chakra into her forehead. She woke up startled. As she looked around she noticed the Hokage and Naruto looking at her. She couldn't comprehend how she got here. Ah, Kurenai-senpai, you are awake. I was about to leave, but I guess I can drop the seal now. What do you think, Gigi? The Hokage was surprised at Naruto's ability to lie, but decided to play along. Yes, well, that's your choice, but it's going to come off sometime. What's going on here? Asked Kurenai, feeling a little drowsy. Well, Kurenai-san, this has been a secret ever since Naruto came back to the village, but since you are his commander you will need to know. So Naruto dropped the seal. Naruto nodded and removed the seal using his sage chakra to make it unstable and break. Naruto's appearance changed slowly. He grew taller, his hair grew out, and his face took on an angular look. His muscles strained his t-shirt to the point of tearing. All in all he looked ripped and matured. Kurenai-san, meet Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Kurenai had a shade of red on her cheeks while her mouth was open. Kurenai-sensei, you're drooling. She seemed to snap out of her stupor, but she was still blushing. Now even though Naruto was naive he still knew what was happening to Kurenai. He decided to tease her a little, so he walked up to her, leaned into her ear, his breath tickling her neck, sending shivers down her spine. He slowly and calmly asked her, like what you see, senpai? She started sputtering and blushing madly at the closeness. Naruto backed away with a million-watt grin. Since Kurenai could not form proper sentences she settled on glaring at him, trying to be menacing, but the blush on her face did not help. She tried to walk up to him, but to no avail, she could not get up. Need some help? Kurenai-sensei, feeling her blush return full force at their closeness, she did the only thing she knew at this moment. She fainted. Do you know where she lives, Gigi? The Hokage shook his head. Well, I'll be leaving, Gigi, as he picked up Kurenai bridal style and traveled to his home, leaving an amused Hokage behind. As Naruto arrived at his home he gently put Kurenai on the bed while he tried to get away. He realized she held him tight. He sighed as he lied next to her and thought, this is going to be awkward tomorrow. Naruto's house. Kurenai groaned as she woke up feeling very comfortable. She opened her eyes to see unfamiliar surroundings. The room looked plain with only a few movie poster and some clothes thrown around the room. Her eyes widened as she realized that she wasn't even in her house. Kurenai tried to get up but found she couldn't move when she turned her head to see what was preventing her from moving. As soon as she moved her head, she saw a mop of blonde hair. Wait, blonde? She turned her face only to come face to face with a whisker-marked blonde drooling on the pillow. A faint blush appeared on her face as she felt Naruto's hands around her waist. She tried to move away only for him to pull her back. He sighed contently as he rested his face in her bust. She started going red in the face when she realized what he was doing. She was about to scream out loud when she felt something poking her inner thigh. Confused as to what it might be, she looked down and thought one thing big. When she finally regained control of herself, she calmly brought her hand up and started to smack the life out of Naruto. Naruto woke up with a start as he felt Femini's hand smacking him. Wait, Femini. He opened his eyes only to come face to face with Kurenai's cleavage. Naruto tried to pull back but didn't realize that he had his hands around her waist. As he fell of the bed he took Kurenai with him. Naruto landed underneath her, both their faces going red as they realized that they were kissing. Now Naruto and Kurenai were thinking only one thing, wow, soft lips. Kurenai sprang away as soon as she realized what happened, though she now felt cold because Naruto was not holding her. Naruto started to sputter and apologize. Kurenai couldn't even glance his way without blushing. She calmed down and asked him a question in very sweet voice laced with venom. Naruto, why am I in your house on your bed, sleeping in it with you holding me? To Naruto it seemed like the Shinigami came to seal away his soul. Naruto tried to calm down and tried to answer. Keyword tried. He finally stuttered out an answer. Well, Kurenai-sensei, you fainted in the Hokage office and I didn't know where you lived, so I brought you here and you wouldn't let go of me. Trying to get her blush under control. Kurenai thought it was best if they started again. Well, how about we try to forget what happened and start again? Introductions. Naruto asked meekly. He may be strong, but hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Kurenai smiled gently and started. Well, my name is Kurenai Yuhi. My likes are dango and genjutsu. I dislike arrogant people and perverts. My hobbies are tending to my rose garden and reading a book. My dream is to be the best Genjutsu user in the world. While Naruto thought about what he was going to say. Okay, well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. My likes are people who treat me normally, and my summons the toads and the monkeys. My dislikes are when Jiraiya-sensei left me alone with nothing to do and the last Uchiha survivor. My hobbies are training to perfect my sage mode and making new friends. My dream is to have a family and become Hokage. Kurenai was stunned. This teen was the Yondium's son, a Sanin's apprentice and the second Toad Sage. He should at least be a Jounin by now. You are the Yondium's son. Yep, kind of a secret, but since Gigi would have told you anyway since you are my senpai. Wait, you trained with a Sanin for 3 years and you are still a Genin. Actually, I trained with him only for a year and 6 months. The rest of the time I was trained by Kakashi Haddock, Yugao Yuzuki, Might Guy and Tenzo of the Wood Release, but the reason I'm a Genin is because Gigi wanted me to go undercover to evaluate the Genin graduation system and the brand of Genins this year. I actually a Chunin. Kurenai's jaw dropped. This man should at least be low Sanin level, but she realized something. Why would he need training from a wood release user? I get the first 3 Jounins and Anbu have speciality, but why Tenzo? Well, he's my bloodline teacher. I have the wood release. Naruto said that as if it was the simplest thing in the world. Now Kurenai was stunned even beyond words. She started spacing out. Naruto seemed to notice her eyes glazing over and got worried. He moved closer to her and tried to snap her out of her daydreaming. Kurenai seemed to snap out her wondering only to feel hot breath tickling her neck while Naruto whispered into her ear, asking if she was alright. Blushing, she seemed to do that a lot this morning at their closeness. She told him she was alright. Well, Kurenai-senpai, you are welcome to take a shower here. Thank you, Naruto. It's fine. Out in the hallway, third door to the left. I don't think I'm going to describe the house. Let your imagination do the work for you. As soon as Kurenai left, Naruto moved to the kitchen to fix him and Kurenai some breakfast. After he finished, he decided that he would just change into a new pair of clothes. As he walked towards his room, he saw Kurenai come out of the shower only in a towel. Her hair sticking to her face, porcelain skin glinting in the sun, and the towel sticking to her figure. He blushed as he realized that her chest seemed to be even more pronounced in the thin piece of cloth. As he realized he was staring, he turned away quickly, hoping she didn't notice. Kurenai felt amused at Naruto's antics, but could not help but tease him. She walked up to him with a sway of her hips and ran a finger across his chest. She felt him shiver under her touch. Next time don't get caught staring, Kurenai whispered in his ear, her touching his chest. Naruto stood there gaping while she walked away with a sway of her hips. After having breakfast, Naruto put his Genjutsu seal on again, which got a raised eyebrow from Kurenai. He explained that his teammates would freak out if he came to their team meeting looking like that. Both departed to their team meeting place. Time skip meeting place. As they met up with Kiba and Hinata, they were bombarded with questions, but Naruto answered with a glare and a bit of kai. They were taken by shock as Naruto never acted hostile towards others. Kurenai sighed and decided to explain what happened yesterday. Okay, so about what happened yesterday, I was having a bad day. I was put off even more when Naruto detected me through my Genjutsu that confused even Jounins. Naruto, noticing my mood, decided to knock me out. Not the best decision, I'd say, but it was good enough. When I woke up, the Hokage answered all my questions about how Naruto detected me. All right, good enough. Now Naruto, do you have anything to say to your teammates? Naruto sighed and explained why he was away from the village for 3 years, who his teachers were, and his heritage, what sealed inside of him, even about his bloodline and his rank. To say they were shocked was an understatement, but all that was nothing against their reaction when he dropped his Genjutsu seal. Naruto and Kurenai watched in amusement as both held their foreheads and started to massage them. Naruto was about to explain to them why he was older looking than them, but Kiba held his hand up saying, "I don't want to know," while Hinata nodded in agreement. "Okay, well, how about introductions?" Kurenai announced. Why don't you go first, sensei?" Hinata said meekly. "Okay, well, my name is Kurenai Yuhi. My likes are dango and Genjutsu. I dislike arrogant people and perverts. My hobbies are tending to my rose garden and reading a book. My dream is to be the best Genjutsu user in the world." Naruto was next. "Okay, well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. My likes are people who treat me normally, and my summons the toads and the monkeys. My dislikes are when Jiraiya-sensei left me alone with nothing to do and the last Uchiha survivor. My hobbies are training to perfect my sage mode and making new friends. My dream is to have a family and become Hokage." Hinata went next. "My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like my little sister and cinnamon buns. I dislike my family being separated and the caged bird seal. My hobbies are sparring and spending time with my little sister. My dream is to become clan head." Though the introduction, Hinata seemed to get quieter as she proceeded. Kurenai grimaced. She was going to have to work hard to build up her confidence. Kiba got up next. "My name is Kiba Inuzuka. I like spending time with Akamaru and hot girls. My dislikes are arrogant people and hot girls who ignore me. My hobbies are training with Akamaru and trying to pick up girls. My dream is to become clan head with a smoking hot babe as my wife through the introduction. Kiba leered at both Kurenai and Hinata. Kurenai glared at Kiba even more, but was surprised when Naruto directed his kai towards Kiba, making him tremble. He relayed a simple message to Kiba in a deathly cold voice that seems to make even Kurenai shiver. Kiba, you will make sure that you do not do anything perverted in my presence or leer at Kurenai senpai and Hinata, because if you do I shall end you as a man. Kiba nodded furiously as not to anger Naruto. Although Naruto was a pervert, he decided that he was better off being a closet perv since his encounter with Kurenai. Okay, now with introductions over. I will give you your genin test to see whether you are worthy of being a Konoha shinobi. If you fail you will go back to the academy. Now you have to get these bells from me before lunch. Kurenai senpai, do you mean these bells? Naruto said, holding up 2 bells. Kurenai looked down to her waist only to see the bells disappear into smoke. Kiba and Hinata amazed as Naruto took the bells without her even noticing. Well, when did you get those? Naruto merely smirked at her. She got irritated but moved on with the test. Alright Naruto, who are you going to give the bell to? Kurenai asked. The whole point of this is teamwork, so I will give my bells to both of them, Naruto replied. Okay, well, teammate is official. Now do you guys want to train or get a mission? I want to get a mission. I hope we get one to save a princess or to save a country, Kiba said, excited about doing missions. Kurenai and Naruto inwardly chuckled. Okay, let's get a mission. As they headed towards the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower. Teammate, your mission is to capture Tora, the Fire Lord's cat. Please move along, report back after you are done, the Hokage said with amusement in his voice. What the hell kind of a mission is this? Kiba replied outraged while Naruto walked past him and grabbed the scroll. Mission accepted, Hokage Jiji. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Naruto, I think it will take longer for you to do that, the Hokage remarked. Really Jiji? Okay, let's put up a wager. If you win I will do D rank missions with no pay for the next month. If I win we all get an A rank mission pay and a C rank mission the next time we come here for a mission, Naruto said. The Hokage agreed and the only witnesses were teammate and the Chunins in the room. Kurenai and Hinata walked out of the office while Naruto dragged Kiba out. He directed a little kai at Kiba and told him to get up. Needless to say, a scared shitless Kiba is an obedient Kiba. Naruto told Kiba to track the cat scent while Hinata searched the village for the cat with a Byakugan. Naruto had a simple plan: locate and cage the cat. After a few minutes of searching, Hinata reported the cat to be on the village walls. Naruto disappeared in a gust of leaves and used vines to trap the cat and made a prison around it. Naruto reappeared in front of his team. Well, let's go and collect our pay, and who wants to go to lunch with me? My treat. Kiba and Hinata agreed simultaneously while Kurenai seemed to hesitate but agreed in the end. As they arrived at the Hokage Tower, Naruto handed the cat to the Hokage and told him to pay up. There sat a stunned Hokage studying the cat to see if it was a fake. He seemed to cry in I'm-style tears as he handed the money to Naruto and secretly slipping him 2 tickets for reservations for the Blazing Leaf restaurant. Thanks Jiji, we will be back for the C rank mission, though I suggest that this be a 2 teams mission. How about this, you put Kakashi and Iki's teams with ours, so we have more experience working with the other teams. Kurenai smiled at Naruto's suggestions, knowing that when they move up in the ranks, they will not work with each other all the time. The Hokage seemed to give it some thought to it and finally agreed. Naruto turned to the rest of his team, asked if they still wanted to go to lunch. They all nodded. Food is food, and who in their right mind would refuse free food? So Naruto asked them where they wanted to eat. Kurenai said she didn't mind where, while Kiba and Hinata suggested the new Barbecue restaurant run by the Akimichi. Naruto agreed and they moved at a moderate pace towards the restaurant. Once they arrived they all placed their orders and walked over to a remote booth in the back. As the food arrived they started up a conversation on random subjects. When the meal finished Naruto paid the bill, much to the protest of Kurenai as she wanted to at least pay half, but the idea was quickly rejected by Naruto. Alright team, we will be going to training ground 8 for a light spar, then head home, meet back at the same training ground. Let's move. The matches were set as Kiba vs Hinata and Naruto vs Kurenai. Time skip, end of training. Kurenai senpai, can I talk to you for a moment? Naruto stated, trying not to blush at what was coming next. What is it, Naruto? Well, I was wondering if you would like to go to dinner with me. Naruto started to blush. He tried not to but couldn't help it. Kurenai was a bit surprised at his forwardness but decided to make him squirm a little. What brought this on, Naruto? Well, I wanted to apologize for the trouble I caused you. By now, Naruto was sweating bullets, fully red in the face and currently inventing new shades of it. So are you asking me on a date? No. Nothing like that. Kurenai glared at him but smirked inwardly. Are you saying that I'm not good enough for you? Naruto was starting to sweat. No, I didn't mean it that way. You are a very beautiful woman. Naruto was now feeling the heat and tried to think a way out of this but was relieved when she smiled. Well, okay, but I don't think I will be going in these clothes. Don't be late, Naruto-kun, stretching the kun as a way of teasing him. She smiled warmly as she succeeded in making him blush. Okay young man, pick me up at my apartment 7:30 sharp. He suddenly appeared behind her and whispered into her ear. Will do Kurenai-chan. Kurenai felt a blush creep up to her face as she could feel his chest against her back, his breath near her neck. She stepped away and left in a swirl of leaves. He was about to leave when he saw paper mixed in the leaves. He looked at it, it was her dress as he realized he only lived a block away from Kurenai. He then came to a realization. He didn't have any good clothes to wear except his training clothes and he certainly was not wearing those. He realized he Cloud asked the Hokage. He left in a swirl of leaves to the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower. Naruto arrived in the Hokage's office, looked around and saw the Hokage was alone. Hey Gigi, I did as you asked and it kind of turned into a date, but I don't have anything to wear. Now Naruto, first I want to ask before you proceed, what do you think of Kurenai-san? Well, she is a nice person, a very beautiful woman. All in all, I like her. Now Naruto, are you doing this because I told you to or because you want to? Well, now that I think about it, it's because I want to. But now my boy, I know just a place where you can help. You do remember the Yamanaka in your graduating class, ask her for help. I'm sure she will be happy to help. This is the address to her flowers store. After finding the shop and asking Ino for help with another half an hour of shopping, buying countless outfits, he finally decided on an outfit consisting of a black t-shirt with a golden dragon curled on the back and black pants and a red full-sleeve jacket. When it was almost 7:30, Naruto left his apartment with a bouquet of white roses surrounding a single red rose. Ino had told him it was a way of saying you are unique, but Naruto just thought it matched her name. He knocked on Kurenai's door only to come face to face with a purple-haired woman. She wore a mesh top with only a trench coat covering her chest. She also wore a rust-colored skirt with shin guards. She grinned at him and gestured for him to come in. She called out to Kurenai. Hey Kure-chan, you little blonde Adonis is here, the woman called out. I'll be right out, Anko, Kurenai replied. The woman, now known as Anko, grinned at him in a way that made him uncomfortable. She walked up to him and pulled out a kunai, held it to his throat and said in a menacing voice, I hear you try anything funny with her and I will torture you for 3 days. Not even the Hokage would stop me, understand? Naruto nodded furiously not to piss off the woman. So Gaki, what's your name? My name's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Wait, you are related to the 4th Hokage? Anko yelled. Yep, he's my dad. Wait, you are Naruto Uzumaki the container? Yes, he replied, a bit uncertain where this conversation was heading, but was relieved when Kurenai came out of her room. Naruto gasped at the sight. She was wearing a black low-cut dress only up to her thigh, showing generous amounts of her legs that seemed to go on forever. He looked up at her. Her dress accentuated her bust even more at the time he saw her in the towel. The room lighting made it look like she had a small blush on her porcelain face. All in all, Naruto seemed to think the woman before him looked like a goddess. Kurenai interrupted his trail of though. Naruto, you are drooling, plus there is blood coming out of your nose. Kurenai gave Naruto a glance over. She seemed to like the way he was dressed, judging by the red blush on her face. Both their thoughts were interrupted as Anko called out to both of them. Hey, if you guys are done eye-raping each other, maybe you should get going. Naruto blushed red, but Kurenai seemed to be used to it as she just sighed and linked her arm with his and dragged him away as Naruto seemed to snap out of his stupor. So Naruto-kun, where are we going? Well, I had Gigi help me with this, he said as he held up the reservation tickets for the Blazing Leaf. Kurenai gasped and stated that it was too expensive and started to make a fuss. Naruto tried to calm her down, but nothing he tried would work, so he would try a different method. He grabbed her by the waist and Shunshined to the Hokage monument and held her close to him. He whispered into her ear. You know, Kurenai, if you didn't want to go on a date with me, you could have said so. Tell me even now, I'll take you back home and I can pretend it never happened. Naruto felt sad but knew it would be the right thing to do. Kurenai turned to him with pleading eyes and said, I just don't want to you spend money on someone like me. Naruto looked her right in the eye. Crimson clawing with ocean blue. And what is wrong with someone like you? You are a smart, kind and a very gorgeous woman. What if it's a one-time thing? Then we both know what it would end like. Don't feel scared just because of that one thing. Don't even think about saying that the age difference is too big, cause I know for a fact when you are a ninja it doesn't matter what age you are. So now tell me, do you want to go to the restaurant or do you want me to take you back home? Hi, let's go to the restaurant. Naruto Shunshined them right in front of it. They had no problems getting in, but Naruto growled at the men that even looked Kurenai's way. Kurenai felt it was a nice gesture but could get out of hand, so she laced her hand with his and led him into a private booth. After ordering some food and making small talk. When the food came, it looked delicious, but the problem was Naruto was holding up the waiter by the throat for making a comment to Kurenai's bust. Now Naruto was pissed, but Kurenai told him to let it, so he did, although a bit reluctantly. I'm sorry for reacting like this. Kurenai waved it off by saying, it was funny seeing his reaction, plus I found it cute that you would defend my honor like that. After the food arrived, they ate in a comfortable silence. Naruto paid the bill using the Uzumaki account and gave the waiter a very good tip. It was a black eye and a broken nose. Walking out of the restaurant, he turned to Kurenai. Do you want to for a stroll around the park? Yes, I would love to. You know, Naruto-kun, this has been by far the best date I've ever had. All the other guy I've dated are pervs or just self-centered. Even better than the third son, but I think it's because he is a chain smoker. Really, I mean because of the way I reacted to the other guys looking at you, I was sure I ruined your mood. Well, I actually found it funny when they flinched away when you growled at them. As she was talking, Naruto spotted a swing in a tree. He grabbed her hand and led her to it and told her to sit down. He started pushing her, and she kept telling him to push harder, not like had you pervs. As soon as she jumped off, Naruto appeared to catch her. They both landed on the ground with a thud. They both soon realized that their mouths were connected, but this time Kurenai didn't pull away. Instead, she deepened the kiss, sliding her tongue across his bottom lip, asking for entry. As his mouth parted, his tongue lunged out at hers. They began a tongue war which finally came to a draw as they gasped for breath. They both felt content for now. Kurenai rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat as Naruto stroked her hair. "So Kurenai-chan, are we boyfriend and girlfriend?" Naruto asked nervously. "Does this answer your question?" As she gave him another kiss. Naruto smiled slyly and said, "I don't know, I think I need more convincing." He grinned slightly as he leaned in and gave her a kiss. This went on for a while. After another 5 minutes they got up. Kurenai shivered at losing her source of warmth. Naruto picked up on this and draped his jacket over her shoulders and held her by the waist. As they finally reached her apartment, he was slightly disappointed that it had to end now, but his disappointment vanished as she invited him in for some tea. He moved into the living room, getting comfortable on the couch as Kurenai came back with the tea. They both sat there sipping the tea as they glanced at each other through the corner of their eyes. Finally, when the tea finished, they both put their cups on the table. They were still glancing at each other, deciding that he had enough. Naruto moved to Kurenai and mashed his lips with hers. He had the feeling of complete euphoria. If Naruto died right now, he would die a happy man, not that he will or it will ruin the moment and the story. After a heavy makeout session, they both lied down on the couch feeling content for the second time in the night. "You know, I have never been so relaxed with a man before," Kurenai stated. "Maybe that's because they were all pervs like you told me," Naruto said, a bit disgusted by the fact that they would judge a woman on her looks. "Oh, and you are saying you are not a pervert? May I remind you that I caught you staring at me while I walked out of the shower in only a towel, plus I still remember the time at the hot springs," Kurenai said. "I never said I wasn't, but I am not one to show my perversions in public, especially after what you did to my clone on when it took off running into the forest," Naruto replied. Naruto glanced at the clock. It was 11 p.m. He sighed. He turned to Kurenai and said, "I think I should be leaving now, it's pretty late. You know, you can sleep here if you want, it's not a problem for me at all." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll sleep on the couch for tonight." "No, you are not. Now move into the bedroom." Kurenai thought she heard him faintly say yes dear. This brought a blush to her face, as thought of marrying Naruto seemed to give her a warm feeling. She got rid of such thoughts for now, as she wanted to see how this relationship move along. As Kurenai moved towards the bedroom, she saw Naruto standing there clad in boxers. She blushed as she saw his muscles. She decided a little teasing was in order. So she moved like a ghost behind him and slipped her arms through from under his arms and ran her hand down his chest to the top of his boxer's waistband. Naruto decided that could play at this game. He turned around and cupped her face and kissed her deeply. After being satisfied at her dazed expression, he moved his hands down and pinched her on the ass. Naruto felt satisfied at her reaction as she leapt up and wrapped her legs around his waist and eeped. Their teasing session turned into a heavy makeout session. After feeling exhausted, they promptly fell asleep as soon as they hit the bed, with Kurenai using Naruto, a large well-muscled teddy bear. They both sighed contently in their sleep. Kurenai's house. Naruto groaned as he woke up to a weight on his chest. He moved his head up to see Kurenai's face glowing in the sun. He looked at the clock on the wall to see it was 7:30 a.m. Wait, 7:30. They were late. Both of them were supposed to meet their teammates about 30 minutes ago. He tried to shake Kurenai awake, but to no avail. She seemed to be in a deep sleep. Suddenly he got a mischievous idea as he leaned closer and started kissing her neck, moving to her jawline and moved his mouth over hers. Her eyes snapped open wide before relaxing into the kiss. Naruto moved back and said, "Enjoying yourself there, Kurenai-chan," as he knew she was awake the whole time. "Come on, we have to hurry or we will be too late to catch Kiba and Hinata," Naruto said as he moved away. Kurenai pouted at losing her source of warmth but looked at the clock and realized how late they really were. Naruto looked at her amazed. She was moving at a speed that made the Hiroshin look like a turtle. Damn, that's got to be a fast turtle. She finally appeared in front of him in her normal attire. While Naruto just gaped at her. She moved sensually towards him and kissed him on the cheek and left to make breakfast. Naruto looked for his normal attire and finally got dressed. Naruto moved into the living room and saw the woman from last night sitting on the couch, sipping some tea. She eyed him suspiciously and grinned slyly at Kurenai, almost shouting, "Hey Kurenai, it's only been one day and you are already getting him into bed. So how was he? Wild, passionate, rough?" Naruto caught the meaning and blushed red. Kurenai, used to her antics, just sighed and replied, "No Anko, we didn't do anything together, just lied in bed and fell asleep. Honestly, it was the best sleep I ever had. He makes a comfy pillow." She had a shade of light pink on her cheeks. The rest of the time was spent eating breakfast and making light chatter. Kurenai and Naruto rushed to finish. Kurenai was headed towards the door, but Naruto grabbed her by the waist and shunshined them to the training grounds. As they arrived at the scene, Kurenai kissed him one last time and started to part, but these actions were stopped by two gasps. Kurenai and Naruto snapped their heads at where the sound came from. It was Kiba and Hinata. Both of Naruto's teammates snapped out of their stupor as Hinata blushed red at catching them in such an intimate scene. Kiba grinned at Naruto and gave him a thumbs up, letting him know that he approved. Kurenai and Naruto sweat dropped at the scene. They decided to just move on with training. After a light spar and some chakra control exercises, they said their goodbyes and moved back home. This became a routine for the next 3 days until they could get the C-rank mission with Team 7. On these days, Kurenai slept at Naruto's house or invited Naruto over using the excuse that her pillow seemed to be missing. Naruto didn't seem to mind as he liked it even more as he spent more time with her. Time skip first C-rank mission. In the Hokage's office, Team 7 and 8 stood at attention as the Hokage handed them the mission. Although there was some confusion with Team 7 when they saw Naruto looking older and in a Chunin vest, but it was cleared up when it was explained by Kakashi. The Hokage briefed them about the mission. They are guarding Tazuna, a bridge builder of Wave Country that wanted to be protected from bandits. The Jounin stepped up and accepted their scroll. The Hokage asked to bring in the client that hired them. As soon as the door opened, the smell of alcohol seemed to bathe the man as Kiba and Akamaru cringed at the smell. The rest of the room looked at the man with disdain. He opened his mouth to say something, but stopped when Naruto walked up to him and pushed some nature chakra into the man's blood vessels, pumping the alcohol out of him. Everyone looked amazed when the man suddenly sobered up and looked at the genin judgingly. "What's with all the brats? I thought I was getting ninjas, although on Cyclops there looks like he would fall over any minute, but there is that hot chick," Tazuna replied in a gruff voice. Suddenly the room temperature seemed to drop to 10 degrees below zero. Naruto vanished and appeared behind him holding a kunai to his throat. He spoke in a sickly sweet voice that made the Hokage cringe. "Tazuna-san, I advise you don't make those comments at girlfriend, otherwise I will take away your manhood and then give you to her best friend who happens to be a T&I specialist." "Do you know what T&I stand for, Tazuna-san?" Tazuna, scared out of his wits, just shook his head for no. "It stands for Torture and Interrogation Department, and her friend specializes in using snakes and poisons. Now for the rest of the trip you will not make perverted comments at my teammates or my sensei. Do we have an agreement?" Tazuna nodded quickly, not to face the wrath of the blonde behind him. Naruto smiled at their agreement and the room temperature went back to the normal and all of the people in the room let out a breath they had been holding. Naruto turned to the Hokage and asked, "So Gigi, are we done here?" Naruto asked. The Hokage nodded. Naruto stepped up next to Kurenai and took her hand in his and shunshined them to her home. Kurenai unlocked the door and was about to step in when Naruto suddenly picked her up bridal style. She looked at him questioningly and was about to ask him when she found her lips occupied with his arms around her waist and eyes closed. Kurenai melted into the kiss. She didn't know why, but she seemed to let her guard down near him, but she loved the feeling. She felt like she was on cloud 9. Naruto sat them both down on the couch and held her to his chest, running his hand through her surprisingly silky smooth hair. Kurenai put her head on his chest and listened to his heartbeat as she drew circles with her finger right above his seal. "Well, I'll be cooking tonight," Kurenai said. Suddenly Naruto got very nervous because Kurenai may be a skilled woman, but even if her life depended on it she couldn't cook. How about I cook for tonight?" "Okay, Kurenai-chan. Are you sure you cooked last time?" "I could make you some ramen," Kurenai said. Naruto laughed nervously and remembered the last time she made ramen. He swore the miso hissed at him while the noodles tried to strangle him. "No, it's fine. I traveled with Iro-sen so I had to cook my own food and I learned from Yugao-nichan too," Naruto replied. "Oh okay," Kurenai said dejectedly. Naruto sighed. He didn't want this kind of reaction. He suddenly got an idea. He grabbed her hand and led the surprised Kurenai to the kitchen and told her to get the ingredients to make yakitori. It is essentially grilled chicken cut into kebab-sized pieces and put on a skewer. "Though I never tried it, looks very good." As he started making the sauce to coat them, Kurenai cut the chicken as he instructed her to do and dip them into the warm sauce. Naruto pulled out 4 skewers and put the pieces of chicken on it, wrapped it in foil, and put into the oven that was preheated to 200 degrees. Now this would have been a normal cooking session had it not been the multiple makeout sessions on the kitchen table, almost throwing the yakitori off the table, or it could have been the fact that their groping session almost got out of hand, forgetting about the yakitori in the oven. Finally, when the yakitori finished cooking, Naruto took them out and left them to cool for a while. After a while coming back, Naruto checked them to make sure that the chicken is properly cooked and took the skewers back into the living room, setting the plate down, and they each picked up 1 skewer and fed it to each other in. After finishing and cleaning up, they both set to go to bed. Naruto arrived in the room with his traditional attire, which is just his boxers, and lied down in the bed and waited for Kurenai's to come back. When he almost fell asleep, he felt someone latch onto him. He opened his to see Kurenai in a see-through gown with only a bra and panties on. She lifted his arm and wrapped his arm around her waist and laid her head on his chest. Wave mission start. Kurenai and Naruto arrived at the west gate of the village, where the drunken Tazuna and the rest of the members of Team 8 and 7 stood who were still waiting for Kakashi to arrive. Naruto got everyone's attention and said, "We should find a place to sit down. Kakashi and Nikki will be arriving in another 3 hours as he has CTT." Team 8 and Tazuna seemed confused by the term CTT, while Team 7 and Kurenai caught on quickly and snickered. Seeing his clients and his teammates' confused faces, he decided to elaborate. "Kakashi and Nikki has chronic tardiness disorder." The whole group snickered. 3 hours later, arriving in a swirl of leaves, Kakashi gave his trademark greeting and ignored the screeching banshee and the breeding Uchiha while quietly greeting the Abiram. Kakashi walked to the Chunins guarding the gate and signed his team and teammate out while the rest of the group walked out of the village. Kurenai's team formed a diamond shape around Tazuna while Team 7 walked in front. Kakashi seemed to be buried in his book while Sasuke brooded and Sakura asked him for dates while sending glare at Shino for sighing and muttering under his breath. After a while of walking, the Jounins and Naruto felt like they were being watched. All of them tensed for an attack, but it never came, but they didn't let their guard down. After traveling down the road for a while, they noticed a puddle on the floor. Kakashi and Kurenai nodded at Naruto as he pulled his sword out that Yugao gave him from the seal on his arm and pushed some chakra into the blade. As soon as the group passed the puddle, 2 hulking figures came out of the puddle. They looked like twins. They both had gauntlets on opposite hands connected with a chain. They both ran at mid-Chunin speed and shredded both Kakashi and Kurenai to pieces. The whole group screamed except for Naruto, who went into battle mode. He leapt over the incoming figure, cutting the chain link that came to shred him and drove his blade through the man. His partner seemed alarmed at his death and charged at Naruto. Naruto did 3 hand seals and said, "Wood style. Tree binding." He slammed his palm onto the ground. The ground broke apart and gave way for the tree to grow out from behind the man. The branches of the trees bound the man's hands and feet and constricted around him, and the man struggled to get out of his bindings but was knocked out courtesy of Kakashi. The team seemed to realize what had happened and got green in the face form, seeing Naruto kill the man, and rushed into the forest. Instantly heaving sound were heard as both teams emptied the contents of their stomachs, but Naruto didn't seem to be affected by it. Instead, he had a stone-cold expression on his face, or what Jiraiya had jokingly dubbed the war face. Both teams came out to see Kakashi hovering over Tazuna, his Sharingan eye uncovered to intimidate the man into telling him the truth. Finally getting the sob story and the guilt trip laid onto them, they finally agreed to continue the mission. Well, if anybody paid attention to Sasuke, they would have noticed he was glaring at Naruto. Moving on from Imo-sama's brooding choices of thoughts in his head. "Well, we are going to have to interrogate him," Kurenai said, gesturing to the bound ninja. "I don't know how. I've never interrogated anyone before, and I can't use the Sharingan anymore because it takes too much chakra." "I haven't done it either," Kurenai said when Naruto spoke up. "I guess I'll do it. I have seen Iro Sennin do it before, and he taught it to me as well when he said he was going to train me to become the next spy master," he said as he unbound the man and took him into the forest and in a faraway clearing. Or dog bird monkey ram, summoning jutsu. Toad mouth bind. As the outside world disappeared and the toad's mouth opened to give Naruto entry. Naruto set the man on one side of the wall. Naruto smiled in satisfaction when the man's feet sunk into the floor and his hands sunk into the wall behind him. Kakashi and Kurenai decided that while Naruto interrogated the man that they should set up camp. Kiba and Hinata got some firewood while Sasuke started the fire. Sakura and Shikamaru set up the tents for the whole team. As night approached, all the teams went into their tents. As Kiba was about to enter his tent with Naruto, Kurenai stopped him and told him that he will be sharing a tent with Shikamaru while she and Naruto slept together. Kiba of course knew that they slept with each other because both of them reeked of each other's scent. So he left to get some sleep before he was woken up for the nightly watch. As Kurenai approached the tent with Naruto's shadow in it, just as she was opened the tent flaps when she was grabbed from behind. She was about to scream out and launch a kunai at the assailant's throat when she felt someone's lips on hers. She was about to push the person away, but stopped when blue eyes snapped open and pulled her close. She felt like an idiot for not knowing it was Naruto, but suddenly her eyes widened and she looked at the shadow in the tent as it suddenly went up smoke. "You can't fool me, Kurenai-chan," Naruto whispered into her ear as she muttered something about stupid sage chakra sensor enhancers. Naruto chuckled and started kissing her neck and moving along her jawline. Kurenai loved how his lips felt on her skin. After a brief makeout session, cough half an hour cough, they both fell asleep. Next morning, as everyone packed up and moved out. After a brief boat ride where there was not enough room, so Hinata sat on Kiba's lap, both blushing bright red, and much to their chagrin, they were teased mercilessly by Naruto, who was also joined by Kurenai, who was sitting on his lap. After getting back on land, Kurenai pouted at losing her source of warmth, but this was quickly taken care of by Naruto, who picked her up bridal style and started walking. After a while, Naruto put Kurenai down when he sensed someone in the bushes. When he threw kunai, it was revealed to be a rabbit with white fur. Naruto entered sage mode to see where the person could be, suddenly heard a whizzing noise. Naruto suddenly yelled, "At down everyone." As soon as those words left his mouth, everyone hit the floor. As the whizzing noise got closer, he channeled sage chakra into his hands to catch the incoming projectile, only to realize it wasn't enough when he saw the size of the sword. He channeled more chakra into his palm and caught the blade as if it was blunt. When he looked over the blade and he finally recognized it as one of the 7 swords man of the mist, it is Zabuza Momochi's head cleaver. Naruto threw it back into the mist, aiming to hit the chakra signature in the mist. Everyone heard a thud. Naruto cursed as it signified that it had embedded into a tree. The mist cleared to see a man with bandages covering his upper body and his mouth. He looked at everyone with a judging look. Finally his eyes landed on Kakashi. He grimaced as it was going to be a tough fight if it was Sharingan Kakashi, and he had another Jounin to help him. "You appear to be Sharingan Kakashi. Sorry, but the old man is mine," he spoke in a gruff voice. "Surround Tazuna and protect him." "Naruto, back me up. The rest of you do not enter the fight." "That's the teamwork here," Kakashi said as he lifted his headband up to reveal his Sharingan eye. Naruto moved behind him and put his palms on the floor, ready to control the surrounding trees for attacking. I already get to see the Sharingan. I'm honored. When I was a member of the Hidden Mists assassin team, I kept a handbook. It included information of you, and even my bingo book had some information on you. You're known as the man who has copied over 1000 jutsu. Copy ninja Kakashi, as Zabuza finished. Naruto stated. "Kakashi and Nikki, I think you have very obsessed fanboy." Naruto and the rest of the group snickered, while Kakashi shuddered and glared at Naruto and said, "You're evil at Tauto." Zabuza saw red, but quickly calmed down. It would not be good for him to lose his temper now. "Now let's end all the talking. I have to kill that old man." "But Kakashi, it seems I have to beat you first." Zabuza disappeared and appeared on top of the water. The group seemed to be amazed by this, except for Kurenai, Kakashi and Naruto, already knowing how it worked. The mist got thicker, blocking all sight. Zabuza's voice rang over the whole clearing. 8 choices. Liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck vein, brain, kidneys, heart. Which one should I go after? The mist got thicker with each word. Suddenly Zabuza appeared in the middle of the group with his sword poised to strike Tazuna in the stomach. Just as the swing was about to complete, Zabuza turned into water as everyone noticed a spike of wood where Zabuza's clone had been a moment ago. Sasuke trembled as he felt the Kai. What is this experience? The air is heavy. It feels like I'll be killed if I make a move. I must end it now, Sasuke thought, desperate to get out of the thickness. As he raised a kunai to his throat when Kakashi spoke up next to him. "Calm down, I'll protect you with my life. No one will die with me around." Suddenly the mist cleared with Naruto radiating green chakra fighting Zabuza with plain Taijutsu. Zabuza threw roundhouse kick to his head. Naruto ducked down only to come face to face with a head cleaver as it cut Naruto's head off cleanly. Everything was quiet. No one said anything. All of a sudden the air became heavy. The Naruto on the floor turned into a wood clone and was absorbed into the ground. Both Jounins and the teams breathed a relieved sigh. The battle was on again. Zabuza took advantage of this and appeared next to Kakashi and kicked him into the water. As Kakashi came out of the water, he realized something was wrong, but it was too late. Zabuza appeared on the water and did some hand seals and shouted, "Water style. Water prison." Kakashi was captured. The team stood dumbfounded as one of the village's strongest Jounin had been captured. Kurenai used a Genjutsu on Zabuza and tried to get too close to him, only to be hit with the flat side of his blade. She was sent flying through the air, coughing up blood. 3 Narutos appeared. One of them caught Kurenai and set her near the teams and joined back with the other 2 Narutos and did some hand seals. Earth style. Earth dragon. Water style. Water dragon. Wood style. Wood dragon. As the 3 Justus were called out, the dragons raised around Naruto, spinning into a tornado and charging at Zabuza's form through the mist. Zabuza tried to slow it down with water clones, but to no avail. The dragon seemed to be set on ripping him to shreds, turning his head to see Kakashi, but only to see a log floating in the water prison. Out the corner of his eye he saw a Naruto clone taking Kakashi's prone from to his team. Zabuza growled at losing his only hostage. Deep in his musings, he seemed to have forgotten about the raging dragons making their way to his form. As he turned his eyes wide into massive proportions, Zabuza tried to move away, but noticed that his feet were rooted to the ground with vines. When the dragons finally hit him, he opened his mouth to give a scream, only for it to become silent as the water suffocated him. Naruto's got a good look at his dead body. Zabuza's arms had been ripped off by the earth and wood dragons, while the water drowned him. Naruto thought it was ironic that the man was killed by his own elemental affinity, but then again there were lots of people that were killed by people with the same affinity, but had a lower mastery over it. Naruto cut off Zabuza's head and sealed it. Just as he was about to pick up the head cleaver, when he suddenly jumped back, his eye senbon were embedded in the ground where he was just a second ago. He looked up to see the assailant. It was a young boy, looked like a feminine Sasuke, but it was certainly a boy. His pheromone seemed to tell the whole story. "You killed Zabuza-sama, for that you will die. I style. demonic mirroring ice crystals. Naruto stood amazed as he realized he was facing a member of the Yuki clan. Naruto snapped back to reality when he was surrounded by the ice mirrors. The boy stepped into one of the mirrors and pulled out 3 senbon and moving at mid-jounin speed and threw the senbons. Naruto, understanding his predicament, surrounded himself in his chakra and swung his hands in a circular motion. Wood shot out of the ground surrounding Naruto in a dome shape. Rain after rain of senbon riddled the dome. Naruto, realizing it was his chance, charging up his chakra, he put most of it in his palms and thrust his hand at the dome as the outside deformed and grew spikes on every inch of it covered. Naruto spiked his chakra one last time, a green glow covering the dome as it died down. At first nothing happened. The boy assumed that the jutsu failed and stopped moving around in the mirrors. The spikes around the dome suddenly sunk in a little bit before launching outwards at high speeds. The spikes broke all the mirrors and impaled the boy by both his wrists to a tree. Naruto walked over to the boy and pulled his mask down and spoke to him coldly. "I'd like to know my assailant's name before I kill him. My name is Haku and I was Zabuza-sama's tool." "Gee, goodbye Haku of the Yuki clan," Naruto said as he slashed his throat. Naruto walked over and pulled the head cleaver out and sealed it into the same scroll as Zabuza's head. As he walked over to his group, he saw their awestruck looks and saw Kurenai looking at him with love and anger. Confused as to what might happen, Naruto walked cautiously towards the group. As he was a few steps away, he was bopped on the head courtesy of Kakashi and Kurenai. He smiled sheepishly at their glares. Finally, Kurenai broke down and sobbed into his chest. He put his arms around her protectively and smiled contently. After Kurenai stopped sobbing, Naruto looked down and saw Kurenai had fallen asleep. He picked her up bridal style and turned to the rest of the group and looked at Tazuna and said, "Tazuna-san, can you lead us to your house?" Tazuna nodded his head shakily as remembered that this kid had torn through 2 people in the time span of only 10 minutes and the Cyclops couldn't even handle the bandaged guy. Suddenly a thud was heard as everyone turned around to see what it was. Kakashi was on the floor from overusing the Sharingan. Naruto sweat dropped and created clones to pick up his Iniki. When arriving at Tazuna's house, they were greeted by Tsunami, who is Tazuna's daughter. After telling her about his travel, Tazuna asked Tsunami to show them their rooms. When Naruto was shown his room, he laid himself and Kurenai down and fell asleep holding her tight. Tazuna's house. Naruto was having a great dream. It involved Kurenai and him plus a can of whipped cream. Groaning, he felt himself come back into the world of reality, but he forced himself back into his dream world, only to be pulled back into reality. He felt his senses come back to him. He opened his eye only to come face to face with a sleeping Kurenai. He tried to squirm out of her grip only for her to pull him back and hold him tighter. She wasn't known as a jounin for nothing. As he tried to get out of her grip again, she groaned and said, Naruto-kun." Naruto turned beet red when realized that his tool was rubbing between her thighs as he tried to move down and get out of her grip, but only succeeded in moving down, only for her to grip him harder and put his head right into her cleavage. This only helped arouse Kurenai even more, feeling his hot breath on her chest. Finally, Naruto gave up and snuggled into her cleavage. After another 30 minutes of sleeping, Kiba burst into their room and yelled at them to get up. Not realizing Naruto's predicament, he started shaking both of them. When they were almost awake, they saw Kiba's face close to theirs. Both of them pulled back their fists and hit him in the face. Kiba was thrown into the opposite wall as both Kurenai and Naruto yelled, "Baka, next time back off after waking us." "And I was feeling comfortable, you know how soft these pillows are," Naruto said. Kurenai blushed at the meaning of those words and bopped him on the head, muttering about blonde closet pervs. Kiba had heard Naruto's comment when he was about to get up when he realized what it meant and blew back with a nosebleed. After arriving downstairs, Kurenai and Naruto joined the rest of the group having breakfast. When everyone was finished, Naruto asked Kakashi, "Aniki, how long do we have to stay here?" "Well, I got another mission for you, Naruto. This is a special request from the Sandaime." After I told him about the state of Wave Country, he said if the people of Wave agree to a treaty, we take care of Gato. So when I talked it over with Tazuna-san, he agreed for the treaty. Your mission is to infiltrate Gato's mansion and steal all his prized possessions, his money and anything with monetary value, while we protect Tazuna-san and his family, and maybe even eliminate Gato. When do I leave? When it's the end of the week. Alright, time for training. Kakashi got up with the help of his crutches and moved to the door and ushered the Genins and Kurenai out. Kakashi is not really injured, he's just being a lazy ass. After a while of walking, they reached a clearing with tall trees surrounding. Kakashi and Kurenai turned to the Genins and explained how to climb trees without their hands. Kurenai threw a kunai at every student's feet except for Naruto's. Team 7 looked confused why Naruto didn't get a kunai to mark his progress. Sasuke, being smug, said, "What's the matter? The idiot can't do this simple exercise." Sakura, thinking that Sasuke was the best, added her own agreement by nodding her head, while thinking it might gain Sasuke's approval. As Naruto was about to pop that bubble of smugness around the Uchiha, Kurenai spoke up first. Since Naruto is a chunin and has had advanced training, he already knows how to do this exercise. So Naruto will be sparring with one of us or working on something else. Sasuke seethed as he watched Naruto. How can he be so powerful? He came out of nowhere and he's stronger than me. I want his power, I needed to kill him, Sasuke thought as he marched up to Naruto. Hey idiot, teach me all your jutsu, I need them to kill my brother, Sasuke spat out. I think I'll work on something I've been trying for a while, it's like an offensive and a defensive technique, Naruto said, completely ignoring the weak kai that Sasuke was exuding. Finally getting annoyed by Naruto ignoring him, Sasuke launched himself at Naruto to drive a kunai into his skull, only to be grabbed by vines that sprouted out of the ground and held tight, his face grinding into the floor. Sakura screamed in protest and started yelling at Naruto to let her. Sasuke-kun go. Naruto had his vines throw Sasuke at the tree. As he hit the tree he spit out blood and glared at Naruto. As everything got back to normal, the rest of the group started learning about tree climbing and Kurenai left to see what Naruto was up to. When she arrived at the scene she gasped as he was lying on the floor while the trees were destroyed and multiple craters in the ground surrounding him. She ran over to him to check if he was okay. As she got closer she heard him chuckling lightly and murmuring something, but as she got closer she heard it clearly. He kept telling himself, I did it. I finally finished it. As she stood over him he finally spoke to her. It's a nice view from down here, Kurenai-chan. I didn't know you liked polka dots, but why are you here? Kurenai blushed and glared at him for the comment, but he only seemed to grin wider. She pouted as it seemed to have no effect on him. I just wanted to see what you were doing, Kurenai said as she looked at him curiously and looking around at the field. I don't think it is normal training, as she gestured to the multiple crates and broken trees. It's a secret, Naruto said as a mischievous grin made its way onto his face. He pulled her closer and kissed her on the lips. Breaking the lip lock he led her over to a tree that was miraculously unharmed while all the others around it had been cut into ribbons. Sitting down and leaning on the trunk of the tree, he pulled Kurenai down and held her by the waist as she melted into his touch. After a while Kakashi came to the scene and looked for Naruto and Kurenai, found them both resting under a tree, with a repeat of what happened to Kiba this morning, only this time the victim was Kakashi. They headed back to the house for some rest and lunch. Although it was ruined by Tsunami's son arguing against Naruto. Now let's take a look into the argument. Inari started, why do you guys bother to try so hard? No matter how hard you train you're still no match for Gatu's men. Continuing on cutting off anyone that was about to say anything. No matter what glorious claims you make or how hard you work. When facing the strong the weak will only end up getting killed. Whatever kid, I'm not like you. Naruto said in a bored tone on voice. Inari got even angrier and started crying and said, I'd hate to be like you. You don't know anything about this country, yet you're being so nosy. What the hell do you know about me? I'm different from you, you're always clowning around and acting cheerful, you don't know how hard life can be. Naruto snapped at Inari's statement. The room temperature dropped, everyone shivered at the malice and hatred that Naruto was exuding. His voice started out deathly cold, eventually getting louder. So it's okay for you to pose as the star of a tragedy show and cry all day? Are you going to keep crying forever while Gatu's men take over the whole country and kill everyone? Are you going to keep hiding while they kill your grandfather and take away your mother and her into a whore? Are you going to be a little sissy? Naruto stopped his rant as he felt someone put a hand on his shoulder. He saw Kurenai looking at him with a stony expression. He calmed down, albeit a little reluctantly, but Inari made an accusation at Naruto again. Don't lecture me, just because you've had a happy life doesn't mean that everyone else is happy. Too. Naruto looked coldly at the boy before looking at Kakashi and saying, so Aniki, why don't you tell them about my so-called childhood? Kakashi flinched hard at the word childhood because he knew Naruto never had a childhood. He had to grow up mentally at a faster pace than even himself, and Kakashi was born when the war started. Kakashi sighed and looked at everyone. They looked back at him expectantly for an explanation. Several thoughts ran through the room's occupants, but one was very common: what could have happened to him? As they tried to come up with theories. Sasuke had very different thoughts. If I get to know about him, maybe I can find out how he got that kind of power. Everyone focused on Kakashi as he started. I met Naruto when he was 8 years old in a full body cast. It was the day after the Kyuubi attack, and people assume that there is a link between Naruto and the fox because he was born on the same day. Everyone flinched at the mention of the demon. His condition was severe even by war standards. His bones were ground to dust by a medical specialist using a kinjutsu that destroys broken bones that can come into contact with other organs of the body. Kakashi flinched at the memory. Another Jounin had taken a kunai, ran it along his skin from his stomach to his neck, but not cutting deep enough that he would die instantly, but enough to draw blood. And lastly, an Uchiha had placed him in a very potent ninjutsu, using the Sharingan's visual powers to make his nerves sensitive to any touch, turning up his pain sensitivity to the max. So even if you ran a feather along his finger, he would feel slice. Someone has split his finger into 2 pieces. The Uchiha was later found out to be the head of the clan Fugaku, and Sasuke's father, who claimed he was proud that he tortured Naruto. Kakashi, whose voice was laced with venom directed at the Uchiha clan. He glared at Sasuke, who shrank back at the mention of his clan, but stopped when Naruto placed a hand on his shoulder. Kakashi started talking again. But the worst of the worst was his own healing factor was very high. The bones turned to dust were regenerated in a matter of minutes. The cut healed as it was made, but the genjutsu wouldn't wear off, so growing his bones back for Naruto was even more painful than it would have been when he was unconscious. Kakashi's voice hardened as he spoke again. We knew who did all this to Naruto as I was the one that killed the medical specialist and the other Jounin, but Fugaku escaped. We tried to bring this up to the Hokage, but he couldn't do anything otherwise they would replace him and have Naruto killed or turn him into a weapon. So for the next 2 years my squad tried to protect him, but the other ninjas would provide as a distraction while the rest of them beat on Naruto. He stopped to take a shaky breath as the memories of the night came back to him. In the end on his 12th birthday the Sandaime told him he would be leaving for 3 years training trip with my squad and become Jiraiya-sama's apprentice. After 3 years he came back, he is still hated by those who recognize him, but he pays no attention to them, Kakashi ended in a lighter tone as his eyes glazed over. Hiba and Akamaru were growling at the villagers because the team knew the real reason of Naruto being connected to the Kyuubi. Hinata, Sakura and Tsunami were crying, and Nari and Tazuna were looking at Naruto in awe for putting up with such a village. Sasuke thought it was a crock of bullshit, he thought the loser was trying to get some pity through his sob stories, but he wouldn't voice these thoughts, not after how Kakashi glared at him. Finally Kurenai was sitting there with a stony expression, she knew Naruto went through this on his birthday she was there to help him on his 9th birthday, but it wasn't successful. She was knocked out by someone from behind when she woke up she saw a bloodied Naruto lying on the ground as she tried to recall what happened after that, but her musings were cut short as something was placed in her lap, she saw his blue eyes looking into hers, she gave him an uneasy smile, but he saw through it. Thinking quickly Naruto stood up and grabbed her hand and turned to the group and said, "We will be back after a walk you guys should get some fresh air too." As they walked out. Arriving at the edge of the forest Naruto turned to her only to see her teary-eyed face. He brought her into a hug and put his chin on her head as she sobbed into his chest and rubbed her back, soothingly whispering comforting words into her ear. He pulled back to give her a kiss on the lips. Soon they both kissing each other hungrily. Kurenai looked at him with lust and passion. She whispered into his ear, "Naruto, I want you now." She emphasized this by grabbing his tool through his pants. Naruto moaned at the feeling but grabbed her hand and stopped her. "We are not going to do this outside, I want to make this special." "Wait here," Naruto said. Naruto arrived in a clearing where he did some hand seals and said, "Wood style. 4-pillar house." Moving into the 1-story house he went into a room without furnishing and grew a simple bed made up of wood. Unsealing his sleeping bag and a blanket, he set the bed up to make it as comfortable as possible, even making a layer of vines under the sleeping bag to make it seem more like a mattress. Moving out the house he located Kurenai standing directly in front of the house looking at it all. She had seen the work of wood style before from Tenzo using it around the village to repair the trees and training ground, but never on a large scale like a house. Her musings were cut short by Naruto picking her up bridal style and taking her into the house. He started kissing along her neck and jawline, she moaned when he suckled on her sweet spot on her neck, finally approaching the bed he put her down and passionately kissed her and asked her, "Are you sure you want to go through with this? I can wait longer if you want." Kurenai pulled him down and kissed him deeply and whispered into his ear, "I want you now." Those 4 words had Naruto's heart beating like crazy, he knew he loved her and going to this step only proved she did too. Naruto woke up first and looked at the sleeping face of Kurenai, he thought about how he met her and what had conspired only a few hours ago. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear as it obstructed his view of her face. Pulling back the sleeping bag they were lying on and touched the vine-covered wood and pushed some chakra into it. After he stopped a figure started to melt out of the wood, making a fully clothed wood clone of Naruto. He communicated telepathically like Yamato Nisan taught him to and told the clone go and collect some food for them to eat. While being Naruto's constructs they had a mind of their own. The clone muttered under his breath about originals getting to do all the fun stuff while clones get stuck doing the boring stuff. Naruto getting tired of his clone's antic gave it a mental kick to the ass and told him to get to work. The clone glared and whispered under his breath hard ass. Naruto sighed and spoke through their mental link. "I heard that." The clone's eyes widened and moved out of the room quickly before his creator decided to turn him back into a hunk of wood. Naruto shook his head amused by his copy's antics and turned back to the still sleeping Kurenai and snuggled back in with her. After a while Naruto's clone dispelled letting him know that the food was prepared. Knowing from past experiences that she wouldn't wake up if he shook her on the shoulder, so he approached her lips with his own and connected them together. She moaned into the kiss and suddenly shrieked when he pinched her ass. She looked at him with a glare but failed. He moved in closer and kissed her passionately and told her that the food was ready. After changing back into their clothes they went into the living room and chatted while eating. After they finished eating Naruto made 2 clones to get rid of the garbage that was left and moved next to Kurenai and put his arms around her, quietly enjoying the warmth that she was radiating. Kurenai smiled and snuggled into his chest listening to his heartbeat. He put his forehead onto hers and asked, "Do you want go back or stay here?" don't worry about telling them. I want to stay here, I like it here with my Kibito, lover. At first Naruto was shocked but quickly got over it and said something that he wanted to say for a long time. Kurenai, I love you. Kurenai felt shocked because she knew that they both loved each other, but they never said those 3 words to each other. After Naruto dispatched another clone, he carried Kurenai into the bedroom and put her on the bed as Naruto was about to lie down when he got the memories of the clone talking to Kakashi and telling him that they would be staying out in a house he made. Kurenai noticed Naruto's eyes glaze over and got worried. She started shaking him. Naruto snapped out of his stupor and noticed Kurenai looking at him with concern and kept asking him what was wrong. Yeah, the clone just dispelled and the memories were just too much to take in because I wasn't prepared for it. He smiled softly at her concerned face and pulled her close to him and lied on the bed with her head resting in the crook of his neck. After a while they both fell asleep in each other's embrace. Naruto and Kurenai both shared one last thought before they were engulfed by their brain's imagination. Life is going to get better. Naruto's 4-pillar house. It was the end of the week. Naruto remembered that today was his mission, while the others went to the bridge to help construction move faster. But Naruto had secretly been sending wood clones in his and Kurenai's place so they could train or just stay inside and rest. Cough sex cough. Naruto groaned as the sun shone brightly in his eyes. He hated mornings, but waking up to a nude Kurenai made it all better. She was sleeping contently, so this time Naruto decided that he would wake her up a different way. He moved closer to her and ran his tongue along her red lips, tracing them then moving down as he laid kisses along her torso, and his finger reached her. He traced along the outside of her areola, making her shiver and give a moan. Finishing his tirade, he put his mouth over her and suckled on it. Her eyes opened in a daze. She felt something on her chest to see Naruto sucking on her. She let out an involuntary moans at the pleasure she was feeling. She moved her hands and started massaging his scalp with her finger, bringing his face closer to her chest and squeezing it onto her. She let one of her hands wander and brought it down to his tool and started stroking him. As she felt he was about to come, she stopped her movements and pushed him away, quickly moving to the shower. Naruto shouted after her. Hey, you know it's going to take a long time to get this thing to go down again. Naruto pouted as she stuck her head through the door and looked at him seductively and in a sultry voice said, well, you could always join me while I'm having a shower and I could relieve you of your problem. Naruto grinned perversely and disappeared from view and appeared behind Kurenai, pressing himself against her back. Kurenai moaned at the feeling of his tool between her ass cheeks, but the moan was muffled by Naruto kissing her. He took her by surprise and picked her up bridal style and ran into the shower and turned on the hot water. After relieving each other of sexual tension, they decided that they would have to part ways for today. Naruto sent some clones to Tezuna's house to implant some seals to protect the home and stay just in case something else happened. He also sent some clones with Kurenai to protect the bridge and inform him of progress. Naruto grinned as he pulled out the 1,000 paper bombs. It was special when set off. It would first set off a small explosion and then finally a large boom that could take at least one face off the Hokage monument. Naruto loved explosions and today the victim for explosions is going to be Gato and his band of merry men. Naruto had his clones do a little recon and found out that Gato had a mansion directly on the dock of Wave Country. He thought the best way to do this was to seal everything into scrolls and blow up the building. He grinned and disappeared, traveling through the trees at a maniacal speed. The bridge, Kakashi, Kurenai and Naruto's clones tensed as they felt the chakra signatures of multiple people. Suddenly mist covered the whole bridge. A nasally voice. If one Jounin can't take care of you brats, then how about 10 Jounins? Gato came into view. The genin could not help but snicker at the man's height. He was only half the height of Sasuke. The Naruto clones were on the floor clutching their stomachs trying to stem their laughter, while both Jounin Sensei's shoulders were shaking, signifying their amusement. Gato glared at them and looked at the Miss Jounin he hired and signaled them to attack. Kakashi pushed his amusement down and turned to the Naruto clones. Tell your boss to abort the mission and come to the bridge. We will hold them off. One clone nodded while the other went on the defensive. But Naruto moved through the mansion like a ghost, no sound being made. He noticed that there were no guards around or anybody working on the docks. It looked abandoned. He located Gato's office and just as he was about to move in, he felt his clone contacting him. He responded with a mental nod. The clone filled him on the situation and that the mission had been cancelled. His orders were to get to the bridge and turn the tide of the battle. He cut the connection and rushed out of the building at his speed. He would be there in 5 minutes. The bridge. The Miss Jounin started a chain of seals matching in speed and called out, "Water style. Water dragon." The clones and Kakashi jumped into action. Kakashi started his chain of seals, his Sharingan spinning wildly. While the clones stood there focusing chakra to block the incoming water dragons. Kakashi finished his seals and focused on his targets. Water style. Giant vortex. The Naruto clones jumped in after Kakashi finished his jutsu. Earth style. Earth wall. As both water jutsu battled for dominance, 3 of the water dragons diverted their paths and headed straight for the group only to hit the mud wall. The water splashed over all over the bridge. The Miss Jounins stood there with calculating looks on their faces. One Naruto clone appeared next to Kakashi and told him that the original Naruto had been informed. Next fighting scene, I'm going to call Naruto's clone Naruto. Much better for understanding. The Miss Jounins were disgruntled that their attacks were useless, but jumped back into action as one of the Miss Jounin pulled out a sword and headed a clone Naruto at Jounin speed and struck downwards, hoping to slice clone Naruto in half, but clone Naruto would have none of it and parried the attack with his own sword and kicked the man in the gut. The man doubled over. Clone Naruto went to slice the man's head but was stopped by water bullets shooting at him. Clone Naruto jumped in the air, his hands covered in a green glow, and raised his hands over his head and clapped them together. The wood sprouted from the mud wall, breaking it. The wood grew around the whole group as a large dome. The Miss Jounin took a step back from this revelation. Note the wooden dome is covering Naruto, Kakashi and the Miss Jounins. Sasuke seethed at the fight being covered. He thought he could get some clue to how Naruto gets his power. He saw Kurenai watching them calmly. She knows something, then it hit him, she was the idiot sensei. She would tell him where he could gain the dobe's power, otherwise he would get the council on their case. With that decided, he stalked up to her and glared at her and said, "Tell me how to idiot got his powers, I want them so I can complete my ambitions. If you tell me, I will give you the honor of being my first wife and to bear an Uchiha child." Kurenai looked at the boy as if he was stupid, finally deciding that she should ignore the boy for her own interest. Being ignored was not a good thing to Sasuke. It reminded him of his brother, and he didn't like his brother, so he lunged at Kurenai with a fist heading towards her face. Kurenai caught the fist with minimal effort and kneed the Uchiha in the face, and finally something that made all the males cringe in fear, she smashed her foot into his groin. Sasuke lurched forward, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets at the pain. His body decided that it could no longer handle the pain and passed out. Everyone was shocked at her because Kurenai was known to be very calm and patient with people. Kurenai grinned at them in a Naruto-ish way and said, "What, he had it coming. Look, it was either me knock him unconscious or have Naruto brutally murder him and feed the body to the toads." While claiming to the village that Sasuke went missing in action, everyone except Sakura agreed with Kurenai, knowing that she was sugarcoating it. Back with Kakashi and the clones. That boy can use the Senju's wood style, thought a Jounin. Clone Naruto took notice of the man's astonishment and launched himself towards him. Soaring through the air, he noticed he was slowing down. Taking advantage of something the monkey summons taught him, he focused his chakra to his feet, and just as he was about to land onto the bridge, he sprang forward, swinging from the wires of the bridge like a monkey. Clone Naruto landed next Kakashi and nodded to him as they both started their signature jutsu. Kakashi's hand started crackling with lighting as he held on it with his other hand. It wasn't long before he zoomed past the clone Naruto in a zigzag pattern, leaving only a trail of lightning. The Miss Jounin stood petrified as the man zoomed towards them. Just as he was about to close in on them, some of the Jounins jumped away, but the two closest to Kakashi didn't react at all. The Jounin's only thought was the jutsu name being used to end their lives. Urkiri. Kakashi sped up and pierced one of Jounin's chest. Squelch. The man looked at his chest, and he saw blood pouring out, covering the ground in a crimson color. He dropped to the ground unceremoniously. Kakashi said a quick prayer for the man's soul and moved on. The other Jounin jumped to attack Kakashi, but his feet never made it off the ground as another lightning-encased fist pierced through his neck. The body fell on the ground with a thud and sprayed blood on the pavement. Kakashi looked at the lifeless bodies, then at his clone, nodding. The clone vanished from existence. He looked over at clone Naruto, and his eyes were almost popping out his head as he saw clone Naruto carrying a human-sized Rasengan over his head, running at a speed that was faster than what Kakashi had used for his own move. The Jounin clone Naruto attacked tried to move away, but his feet wouldn't comply. He looked down to see vines coming out of the floor. He looked up to only to see a bright light that was smashed down on top of him. Clone Naruto grimaced as he saw the Jounin's body, or at least the bloodied mush that signified that the man used to be there. He jumped back when he realized that the location where the Adama Rasengan impacted also made a large crack in the bridge. He smiled sheepishly as Kakashi glared at him, but glared right back at him and pointed above his shoulder. Kakashi's sweat dropped as he realized that his water jutsu had created a hole in the middle of bridge. He glared back at clone Naruto, who was now laughing his ass off. Just as he was about to attack the clone, the water of the sea under the bridge started to hit against the supports. The metal groaned and creaked under the pressure of the water waves. He turned to all the Naruto clones with a serious face and said, "The other Miss Jounins are trying to break the supports. The only thing I know that will be best for this situation is your freestyle wood technique. It will take all your chakra, so you will need to lower the barrier around the rest of the group. They can at least help defeat a few more guys." The clones nodded and the dome fell down, allowing the rest of the genin to see the carnage created by Kakashi and Naruto. The genins, still not used to killing people or even seeing death, puked over the edge of the bridge. While Naruto laughed sheepishly at the glare he was given by Kurenai. The clone decided that he should let the original take the verbal trashing. After all, he was only a clone. Quickly moving to the middle of the bridge, the Naruto clones melded together into one clone. The clone focused his chakra around his entire body, giving him a green aurora. The clone slammed his palms onto the ground. Wood started to grow out of his hands and cover the bridge's entire surface, finally moving down to the bridge supports. The wood coiled around the supports like a snake. After a while the whole bridge was covered in wood. The clone dropped, and now merely a husk of its creator's shape, the wood left over from the clone was absorbed by the wood of the bridge. Everyone looked awed at the power that the clone possessed. They wondered how powerful Naruto really was. Snapping back to the other Jounins who were climbing up onto the bridge. There were only 7 Jounins left. Kakashi launched into Taijutsu mode. Using the Sharingan's prediction ability, he sprinted at one of the Jounins and slammed his fist into the man's jaw. The man skidded backwards and launched at Kakashi, engaging the man. The Jounin threw a roundhouse kick to Kakashi's head. Kakashi caught the leg with his hand and then proceeded to hit the man in the stomach, making him spit out blood. The man staggered back from the blow, but Kakashi got a good grip on him and threw him up into the air. The Jounin still was unable to get his bearings back to normal, was beaten by Kakashi in the air. Finally Kakashi slammed the heel of his foot into the man's neck, making his spine pass through his windpipe, unable to breathe, choking on his blood. Kakashi looked at the bloodied body of the man. He was used to killing, but that didn't mean he loved killing anyone in his way. He felt remorse for every kill he had to make. Kakashi looked around and saw that Kurenai was fighting another Jounin, while Kiba and Hinata took on another. Sasuke was still out cold on the floor, with Sakura guarding him and Izuna, while Shino had let his bug simply drain the Jounin of his chakra. The other 3 Miss Jounins stood back and covered the others using water bullets to distract the Konoha shinobi. Kakashi spotted Gato trying to run away from the scene. Kakashi threw 2 shurikens with ninja wire attached to them. As the wire made contact, the shuriken spun around the midgets from and bound his feet together. As Gato tried to move, the shuriken dug deeper into his legs, making him scream out in pain. Kakashi walked up to Gato and bound his arms with more ninja wire and propped him up against the railing of the bridge. Kakashi turned back to the battle to see Kurenai lodge a kunai into the back of the Jounin's head, while Kiba and Akamaru used their clan technique to hit the Jounin, making him fly up. As the man came down, Hinata used her Gyuukin to stop the man's heart. Finally Shino had knocked out 2 of the other Jounins using his bugs. Now there were only 2 Jounins left. Kakashi looked around to see the second last Jounin was being finished off by Kiba, Hinata and Shino. Now if he could just find the last Jounin, but the man was nowhere to be seen. He thought the man had fled, seeing him comrades being beaten easily, but to his horror, he saw the man rushing at Kurenai with a sword covered in poison, who was currently helping Kiba and Hinata get over their first kill. Kurenai heard footsteps behind her. She turned around to block the incoming attack, but was too late, just as the blade was about to pierce her through her stomach, but only made a scratch with a little blood leaking out of it. Everyone looked in astonishment as the blade was stopped a hair length away from killing Kurenai. The Jounin looked at his weapon confused until he realized that there was a hand holding his sword from moving. Suddenly another hand struck the blade on its side, breaking it into 2 pieces. The Jounin looked up and saw the blonde that was using the wood style before. Naruto stalked towards him, speaking in a very calm that did not match his Kai. You attacked my comrades, try to kill my precious people, and then you have Goal try and attack the only source of happiness in my life. For that you will die. The Jounin trembled as he saw flashes of his death. He saw himself getting ripped apart by the blonde's bare hands. He tried to run only to realize that his body would no longer comply, but deciding that it did not matter, he said the last few words of his life that shook Naruto to his core. You talk about protecting people close to you, but this time you have failed. The poison on this sword is quick acting, 1 cut, and the person only has 3 hours to live. You failed, boy. You failed miserably. The Jounin trailed off, ranting about how he was at least going to take down 1 person with him. Naruto froze and then grew enraged. Using the blade in his hand, he rushed at the Jounin and cut into his windpipe, showering Naruto in a spray of blood. Naruto turned around just in time to see Kurenai fall to the ground, her skin paler than normal. He rushed towards her and crouched down near her side. The whites of her eyes had expanded over her normal crimson one that he loved. Naruto tried to heal her with his sage chakra, but to no avail. The poison was stuck. He tried to heal her again by using his green wood style aurora because of it being similar to medical techniques used by the only living senju, but it still didn't work. Tears streamed down his face. Kurenai cupped his face gently and opened her mouth, but she was stopped by him. He looked at her and said, "Don't talk. Just save your strength, I will save you." He looked at his friends and surrogate family, only to see despair and dread on their faces. Then it hit him, he had to stay calm and analyze the situation so he could come up with a solution. He wiped his tears and turned to Hinata and said, "Hinata, I want you to scan her body to see where the poison is headed." She nodded shakily and turned on her bloodline and spoke. "It's attacking her nervous system and brain functions, shutting down any motor skills. If we don't stop the poison now, it will eventually reach her heart and stop her blood flow." Naruto reviewed in his head everything he had learned, but his emotions kept taking him over. Kakashi noticed this, and it hit him they didn't have to stop the poison, they could freeze her body using Naruto's sealing knowledge. Approaching him carefully, he put a hand on his shoulder and told him in a soft voice. "Itato, I have an idea, it might not cure her, but it will give her more time. You need to put her in a stasis seal, we can take her back to Konoha and get her healed by the medics." Naruto nodded, trying to blink out the tears, and performed a series of seals. His fingers lit up with a mix of red and green chakra and placed it over her heart and then twisted his hand in a clockwise direction, finally saying, "Gyunjustu." Stasis lock. The series of seals spread over her body and finally contracting back over heart, taking its final shape of a whirlpool. He turned to Kakashi and said, "I want to move now. You guys stay here and complete the mission, alone I will move faster, I will send you a summon to inform you of me getting to Konoha." Kakashi tried to reason with him. "Naruto, the bridge is not complete and the ships aren't going to take you across quickly enough, plus the water is too unstable for you to go across it. Even the toads can't swim in the salt water, while the monkeys are animals of the trees and the ground, they can't even walk on water." Naruto still was not convinced, so he came up with his own solution. "Kakashi and Nikki, if the bridge is not complete then I will complete it here and now. I don't care what you say. Everybody get back." Kakashi sighed and signaled everyone to move back. Naruto focused his chakra using the ram's hand seal. As soon as Naruto let the seal go, his body burst with his green chakra, his eyes were now a mix between red and blue. Naruto, acting quickly, slammed his palms onto the floor. Suddenly the wood that covered the bridge grew to mass proportions and connected to the other side. Naruto stopped the flow to the wood and focused on making a harness for his back so he could carry Kurenai. Kakashi lifted Kurenai and put her into the harness and used ninja wire to tie her into it. Naruto flared his chakra again and took off like a missile. Kakashi turned to the remaining group and ordered them to move back to the house. On his final note, Kakashi said, "We will be leaving tomorrow after the bridge's final touches are done." Time skip 3 hours later. Naruto arrived at the village gates, his chakra still flaring. As he approached the guards, he let his chakra drop. The Chunins granted him entry as soon as they recognized him. He sprinted away to the hospital and got Kurenai into the emergency ward. He turned on his heel and walked to the Hokage's office. The Anbu informed the Hokage of Naruto's presence and told him to go in. The Hokage put on a bright smile, expecting to see a happy Naruto with his whole team. Instead, he saw Naruto alone with a depressing aurora and a cloud of shame around him. The Hokage looked on in concern and asked him, "Naruto, are you alright? Where is the group?" Naruto looked up at him with haunted eyes and said in a hollow voice, "They are still in Wave. I came back with Kurenai-chan, she's been poisoned with something new. It happened when there was a confrontation between us and the Mist Ninjas. We eliminated most of them, but one of them was hiding and performed a hidden attack on Kurenai-chan." The Hokage dismissed him and told him to go home and get some rest. "Don't worry, Naruto, she will make it, she is a strong woman." The Hokage smiled reassuringly at him. Naruto looked back at him with a fake smile and nodded. He left via Shushin. 2 days later. It had been 2 days since Kurenai had been admitted into the hospital. Naruto was seen coming into the hospital every hour to check on her, hoping that she would wake up. Naruto was about to go to the hospital again when the deer-masked Anbu appeared in front of him and told him to report to the Hokage's office. Naruto nodded and shunshine to the Hokage's office. Putting on a fake smile, he headed into the room, but his smile quickly dropped as he saw Jiraiya and the Hokage talking about some kind of mission. "Ah, Naruto, thank you for coming. We have good news and we have bad news. So let's just start." The Sandaime decided that instead of beating around the bush, he will get straight to the point. "Naruto, the medics can't save Kurenai. I have been given a report that says the poison moved around the body too much, they can't remove it. It's clinging to her chakra coils, using the chakra as a medium to grow. We can't seal her chakra away because her body will stop functioning." Naruto felt the color in his life just melt away, his mind blank, the darkness around his eyes increased until his whole world went black. Jiraiya caught Naruto before he hit the ground and put him on the couch. The Sandaime sighed emotion for Jiraiya to wake him up. Naruto stirred as he felt someone throwing sprinkles of water on his face. Opening his eyes, he saw Jiraiya looking at him with a serious face. The Hokage started his explanation again. "Naruto, the village needs a new leader. I'm getting too old and Jiraiya has refused, so there is only one person that can take up this job and cure Kurenai. Unfortunately, she has a deep hatred for this village. After losing people close to her in the war, she had left the village for good. But I want you to go with Jiraiya, who has a gauntlet on her, and try to convince her to come back to the village at any cost, even if you have to bring her back kicking and screaming. Are you capable of this?" Naruto looked on in a daze. They had found a person that could cure Kurenai. She would be alive again, she would smile again, and he felt like his heart was going to burst. He nodded quickly and said, "I'm guessing that this person is your other student Tsunade Senju." The Hokage nodded and dismissed them. After 30 minutes, Naruto and Jiraiya left through the north gates of the village and moved to a small town with casinos. It is called a Keek Town. Naruto and Jiraiya moved around asking for Tsunade around the whole town. When they met back, both concluded that she had moved on as she was here about a week ago. Moving again, they arrived at the next town, Hokage, the gambling capital of Fire Country. Moving around into casinos and bars. After not finding Tsunade, they moved into a bar to get something to eat. It's already night and we still haven't found her yet, Naruto thought, frustrated at the minimum amount of progress they had made. Jiraiya noticed this and put a comforting hand on his shoulder. Naruto looked up at him with tears in his eyes. This made Jiraiya reel back in shock. In all the years he had known the boy, he had never even shed a single tear. Jiraiya smiled at him confidently and said to him, "Don't worry, we will find her and then bring her back to the village." As the older man lifted the flaps of the entrance as he looked around for an empty table, he suddenly spotted Tsunade sitting in a booth at the back with her assistant Shizune. He blinked, trying to see if he was hallucinating. As his eyes cleared, he grinned and motioned Naruto to follow him. He walked up to the booth and sat down and looked at the women opposite to him. "Tsunade and Shizune, it's good to see you again." Tsunade looked startled to see her teammate and narrowed her eyes, but maintained a cool voice. "Jiraiya, why are you at a place like this? This is a 50-year-old woman, she barely looks 35," Naruto thought, and then narrowed his eyes in suspicion. "She is surrounded in a thin layer of chakra. It's a transformation." Jiraiya continued, "We have finally found you. Why did you come to see me?" "To tell you the truth. The Sandaime wants you to become the goddamn Hokage." Tsunade's eyes widened at this, she choked on her sake and started sputtering while Shizune looked shocked. "The goddamn Hokage? What the hell?" All of a sudden, a third is retiring and wants you to take over. Tsunade decided to take her mind off her subject and focused on the blonde boy sitting next to her teammate. "Who's the kid?" Tsunade inquired. "My apprentice and the second Toad Sage and my legacy in all but blood." "Are you going to introduce yourself, brat?" Naruto glared at Jiraiya for calling him a brat, but sighed and said, "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the Kyuubi host." Tsunade's eyes widened at the name, but even more so when he told her about his status as a host. Jiraiya tried to convince her to return to the subject, slowly but surely. Tsunade was getting irritated by her teammate's persistence and finally snapped. She lifted both her hands and slammed them onto the wooden table. The table shattered under the pressure like a piece of glass. Everything went deathly silent as the other customers watched. Naruto stood up quickly and tried to defuse the situation. "I'm sorry about the table, she kind of has a temper. Don't worry about it, I'll fix it right away." Naruto moved the broken pieces of the table and cleared the area of any food or drink. Focusing on his chakra, he formed a green glow in his palms and gently placed them on the floor. The customers and the owner watched amazed as a table started to literally grow out of the ground. Naruto stepped back as the table grew back to its proper height. Naruto turned to Jiraiya and said, "Let's go, we don't need to waste time here. I will try to find an alternative to save Kurenai, besides she will just freeze up at the sight of blood. I don't even think she is capable of becoming Hokage." "You? How do you have my grandfather's bloodline?" Tsunade asked. Naruto ignored her, which only seemed to enrage her. "Naruto, we can't go. Even if she doesn't become Hokage, she will have to go back to the village." "It's Iritobi-sensei's orders." Tsunade butted in and said, "And you think I will go with you?" "Just like that, I've been avoiding that damn village for the past 15 years, what makes you think that I will go back?" Jiraiya smirked and said, "You have two choices: you become a civilian and have your chakra sealed away for good, or come with us and heal the kid's girlfriend. Besides, you are the only person fit to become Hokage, being the granddaughter of the Sandaime Hokage, the grandniece of the Nindaime Hokage, and finally being the student of the current and third Hokage. You are the most qualified person to become Hokage." Tsunade thought of her chances of escape, but then thought of something. "Fine, I'll make you a wager. I fight with the brat over there. If he wins, I go back to the village and heal his girlfriend and become Hokage, but if he loses, you go back and say that you never saw me. Is that a deal?" Jiraiya jerked his thumb towards Naruto and said, "It's his choice if he does it or not. It's fine with me, but I want that necklace as well." Naruto gestured to the green crystal. "It's made from a mix of the wood style and nature chakra. Anyone that doesn't have the DNA of a senju or anyone that doesn't master being nature chakra will be slowly killed, plus it's worth the same price as 3 mountains." Walking out, Naruto found a clearing outside of town where no one would sense them. Tsunade, thinking that the boy would be an easy hit, she decided to brag. "Gee, for a kid like you, I will only lift up a finger and make it easy for you. You think you are all tough and big just because you have the first Hokage's bloodline. TSK, please, before you were even born I was fighting wars." Naruto narrowed his eyes at her, but said nothing, making Tsunade frown at the lack of reaction. Both tensed and launched at each other, heading for a frontal attack. Naruto brang his fist up and tried to hit her in the face, but Tsunade leaned down and pushed her finger onto the ground, making a fissure to make Naruto unbalanced, but it didn't throw Naruto off his target. He ran at her again, but his time in a zigzag pattern, only leaving a trail of dust. As Naruto appeared right in front of her, she charged up the chakra into her fist, aiming for his face, intent on breaking his neck. Time seemed to slow down as the boy caught her hand with his own hand, made bigger using the wood style, like Chaoji when he uses his clan jutsu, but made up of wood. Tsunade snapped out of her momentary shock and repeated the same process with other hand, only for it to be caught by his other hand. Naruto flared his chakra, and slowly but surely a figure came out of his side molding into a wood clone. Already knowing its orders, the clone performed 3 hand seals. Tsunade looked on in fear as the clone approached her with its finger lighting up with purple chakra and slammed it onto her stomach. Tsunade dropped to the floor, feeling her strength leave her and being claimed into the world of darkness. The clone put its palms onto the floor and grew a cage around her, while Naruto put suppression seals on the cage. Naruto turned around to see a horrified Shizune and looked at Jiraiya questionably. Do I have to do the same to her? Jiraiya looked at Shizune, who shook her head violently. No, she will cooperate. Let's go back into town and find a hotel. Naruto shook his head. No, we need to move. We were being followed when we came all the way out here. The person watched the whole fight. I'll summon Gamabunta to take us back to the village. Jiraiya shook his head and sighed. He motioned for Naruto to get on with the summoning. Or dog bird monkey ram, summoning jutsu. Gamabunta. The giant looked at Naruto, who was at the tip of his nose, and said, "Why the hell did you summon me in the middle of nowhere and at night? We need to get out of here quick, and you are the fastest toad available. There is someone on our tail." "Fine, but this is the only time I will become your taxi service. Next time you better have sake. Come on, what are you staring at? Hurry up and get on." Naruto carried Tsunade in her cage and brought her onto his head and used chakra to stick the cage to his head while Jiraiya and Shizune climbed on. Time skip 3 hours later. Arriving at the northern gates of Konoha, Naruto dispelled Gamabunta and landed on the ground along with his 3 other passengers. Approaching the gates, Naruto signed in the register and moved in with the other 2 people while he carried the cage again. Going into the Hokage tower, he entered the office to see the Hokage doing paperwork. Naruto tried not to snicker when he saw the Hokage stick his tongue out too in an effort to do his signature on the paperwork. Naruto, getting impatient, coughed to get the Hokage's attention. The Hokage looked up only to have his eye widen at the state of his only female student. He looked at Naruto for an explanation. Well, it all started. Naruto started to explain what happened and how they got into their current situation. The Hokage sighed and said, "Alright Naruto, unseal her chakra and wake her up." Naruto nodded and dropped the cage and focused his chakra to his fingers and unsealed the seal on her stomach, moving a few meters away from her, and he performed a small-scale water dragon and had it splash onto her face. Tsunade woke up with a start as she felt cold water splashed on her face. "Ah, Tsunade, good to see you again." The Hokage started the conversation. Tsunade looked around bewildered. "How did I get to Konoha? The last thing I remember is fighting that brat, and then it went dark," she thought. The Hokage looked at Naruto and Jiraiya and dismissed them. Naruto parted ways with Jiraiya and headed to the hospital. Noticing that visiting hours were finished, Naruto transformed into a doctor he met a long time ago and walked into Takuranai's room. He dispelled his transformation. He grimaced as he saw her connected to all those machines. Deep down he blamed himself for even letting Kurenai get hurt. Thinking about what he could have done to prevent the situation, he slowly drifted to sleep on a chair clutching her hand. The next morning, Tsunade walked into the hospital as the Hokage had informed her last night what her duties will be. Until he announced his retirement, she would be learning the ropes of being Hokage. She grumbled as she walked into the special case room, meaning the brat's girlfriend's room. As she walked in, she saw him holding her hand while sleeping on the chair. She walked up to him and shook him awake and said, "Go home, kid, I will get an Anbu to bring you back later." He nodded and released Kurenai's hand, albeit a bit reluctantly, and shunshined out to his apartment. It was around mid-afternoon when an Anbu came to his house and informed him that he was needed at the hospital. Moving quickly, he vanished in a swirl of leaves and appeared again in the hospital. Quickly moving into Kurenai's room, he saw Tsunade standing there with a team of medics. He looked at her and asked, "So what do you need me for?" "I need you to remove the seal, and also we need your chakra capacity for this procedure. It will take a long time to extract the poison, and we don't have enough chakra to keep going all day." Naruto nodded. He would do anything to keep Kurenai alive. He moved close to her body and performed a series of seals. His fingers lit up with a mix of red and green chakra and placed it over her heart and then twisted his hand in an anti-clockwise direction, finally saying, "Yunjustu." Stasis unlock. The series of seals spread over her body and burned up, not even leaving a small amount of trace that it was even there. He turned back to Tsunade and asked what was next. "Okay, all you have to do is place your hands over mine and focus chakra into them. I'll do the rest." 6 hours later, after grueling hours of work, Tsunade had finally removed the last of the poison from Kurenai's body. Now all she had to do was jump-start her body. Tsunade focused on her lightning affinity and charged a small amount into her hand and touched Kurenai's temple. The lightning sizzled across her body. She opened her eyes slowly. Kurenai blinked, dazed at being awoken from a long period of sleep. She felt someone grab her hand and look up and saw it was Naruto, and he had tears in his eyes. "Why is he crying?" "Naruto-kun, why are you crying?" "I'm just happy that you are awake. You had me worried for 3 days. I couldn't focus on anything at all," he said, wiping his tears. He sat next to her on the bed and pulled her close. She turned her head to face him and softly kissed him on the lips. Kurenai decided that this moment of peace and quiet was the best time to tell him. Naruto-kun, I don't know how to break this to you easily, so I'm going to just say it. I am pregnant. Naruto sat in a daze as her word registered, his face went blank. Kurenai felt nervous as she awaited his response, she almost cried out in joy when a large grin broke out on his face. Naruto, I love you. Yeah, I love me too. Kurenai bopped him on the head and glared, but her glare softened when he leaned in to kiss her. Hokage's office. 1 week after Tsunade retrieval mission. Naruto and Kurenai sat nervously as they were telling the Sandaime and the soon-to-be godame about their relationship. They both had serious faces on, but on the inside both were laughing their asses off. This all started when they came into the office and announced Kurenai was pregnant. Flashback. Kurenai and Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha, although they were smiling on the outside, but on the inside, they were nervous as hell, because they were going to talk to the Sandaime about potential marriage plans and getting a bigger place to live. After Kurenai told Naruto that she was pregnant, he became protective of her even more than before. Naruto had almost neutered Asuma Sarutobi for asking her on a date when Naruto and the team had been training. Naruto picked up the words leaving the chain-smoking Jounin's mouth and quickly threw a kunai at his family jewels. Asuma looked scared for his life when Naruto flashed in front of him in sickeningly sweet voice, saying that he needed to practice his aim a bit more so that he doesn't miss his target. The next day Naruto returned home with a green emerald ring and got on his knees and asked Kurenai the question that had been on his mind for a long time. Kurenai Yuhi, will you do me the honor of being my wife? Kurenai gasped as she saw the ring and nodded, unable to say anything in fear of ruining the moment. He slipped the ring on and kissed her deeply. The couple arrived at the tower and knocked on the office door. When they heard a muffled come in, they proceeded to walk into the office and saw Tsunade sitting in a seat next to the Hokage drinking sake. The Hokage concentrated on his tobacco, and Kakashi and Jiraiya were in the corner with the Sandaime's crystal ball giggling perversely. After talking with Tsunade for a while, Naruto and her began to gain bond of a family. He called her his Aba-chan, but she just called him Brat. The couple's sweat dropped at the scene and coughed to get the room's occupants' attention. Everyone snapped to attention as the men in the corner hid the crystal ball, trying to hide their bleeding noses, while Tsunade hid the sake bottle in a storage scroll labeled Medic Ninjutsu. This caused the Hokage to snort in amusement and inhale the smoke he was about to release, causing him to cough violently. As the couple tried to hide the massive sweat drops forming on the back of their heads, Naruto took the lead and started the conversation. Gigi, we have to talk to you in private. The Hokage looked at the other male occupants and motioned for them to leave. As Tsunade was about to get up and go out, the Sandaime told her to stay because of her being Hokage, she had to know how to deal with secrets. The couple opposite to him did not oppose it either. Flashback end. So Naruto began telling them about their plans and what they wanted to do next. Naruto was about to ask about their new living arrangement when the third Hokage said, well, your father's estate was destroyed, but we can have it cleaned up and start on a new house. Maybe you can even build it on your own. Naruto grinned. He always wanted to build his family house with his own 2 hands. I'll take it. But what the Sandaime said next made his grin drop. Naruto, the council found about your use of the wood style. Well, I had people cover up any tracks of you using it, but it seems there was a loose end. They want you to resurrect the 3 clans you now belong to. Firstly, the Namikas. It was never really a clan, but once your father became Hokage it was considered a clan. Then the Uzumaki. They were originally from Whirlpool country and skilled in sealing, and they had quite the knowledge of Kenjutsu. And finally, you officially belong to the Senju clan, as does Tenzo. Since only you are the youngest, you are the clan heir, but Tsunade will keep the seat warm until you can handle the responsibility. But getting back to the council, they want you to take on more than one life partner, and since it's officially the law you have to comply. I have no authority in this. Naruto kept his face impassive and asked, how many wives do I have to take on? The minimum will be 2, and since you have Kurenai here you will need to take on another wife. Naruto gritted his teeth and asked, is there any way out of this? I don't want to do this. I'd rather not become a sex machine. Even after all I've gone through in this village, they won't let me live in peace. The Hokage sighed and said, I'm sorry Naruto, but that is law. It will even apply to the Uchiha when he turns of proper age. As the Hokage was about to continue, there was a knock on the door. The Hokage said to come in. The door revealed a masked Anbu with a weasel mask and red hair. The Hokage motioned for the Anbu to give his message. The Anbu nodded and started in a monotone voice. Hokage-sama, the council wants to see you and your current guests in the discussion chamber. The Anbu left via shushin. As soon as the man was gone, the Hokage cursed and said, there is something fishy going on here. They shouldn't know that you are even here. Someone has been spying on us. As soon as the Hokage finished his sentence, Naruto threw a kunai at a painting of a shrine dog near the Kenjutsu scroll. As the kunai hit the painting, it melted off. Well, that solves the problem of who was spying on us. Danzo has been keeping tabs on me since I returned to the village, so anytime he could get his hands on me it was prevented by you, but he would want to get his hands on a mini-me, which would be a powerhouse not up to my level, but at least half my power, which even makes Jiraiya's power pale. So all in all, if he can get his hands on this baby he will try to recreate it using genetics research to eliminate the personality, only leaving a mindless drone with the first Hokage's power. The Hokage sighed while Kurenai and Tsunade were shocked that he knew that someone was watching and did not point it out or eliminate them. Well, we will continue this later, but right now we have a council meeting to attend to. Naruto, be ready for a surprise announcement. Right, let's go. The four walked to the bottom of the tower and entered the discussion room. Naruto and Hiruzen looked at the civilian council with disdain, while the shinobi council had impassive looks on their faces, but on the inside they were seething. This was one of their most promising shinobi, and the civilians had the gall to question his loyalty. That was saying that the Sandaime was Orochimaru in disguise. Okay, let's move on with this meeting. I'm sure we have better thing to do than listen to people protest. The shinobi side chuckled, while the civilians frowned as they knew that the comment was directed at them. The Hokage sat down on his main chair with two Anbu guards by his side. The Hokage now radiated the presence of authority. Both Anbu bowed as he greeted them both. Tsunade walked over to the Senju clan seat and greeted the head of the Nara clan. Shikaku Nara on her right and on her left the head of the Aburam clan, Shibi Aburam. Naruto and Kurenai stood in the middle, being Genin and Jounin. They had no place in the council unless they had a clan. The Hokage cleared his throat and said, "What is the purpose of this meeting? I was in the middle of discussing something that could change the future of Konoha." As Hiruzen was about to continue, Danzo butted and said, "If this something is supposed to change our village's future, then why wasn't the council informed?" Hiruzen became enraged at his teammates' questioning and replied in a way that made it seem like the Shinigami had come to take their souls for eternity in hell. "Danzo, mind your place, you are only my advisor and nothing else. I was picked to run this village by Tobirama-sensei, and I was picked again after the Yondaime died. So Counselor Danzo, mind your place or otherwise I will have you executed for speaking against me and mark you as a traitor, and your body will be burned." Danzo reeled back from the venom directed at him. He had seen this side of Hiruzen before. It was the time of war and he was newly elected Hokage. Danzo advised that they send out troops on a mission to gather information. Unfortunately, that was the last time Hiruzen ever trusted because of a mistake in the mission parameters. The number of ninja lurking around that area were too large. Two of the three people sent were caught. The leader decided that instead of finishing the mission, he would rescue his teammates. Because of this, when the man came back he was discriminated against. He fell into a depression and took his own life on that day. Konoha lost the most promising shinobi to come since Tobirama Senju. His name was Sakumo Haddock. Ironically enough, a phoenix burns, another rises from its ashes. The man's son has now become known for his fierceness and believes the comrades should be put before the mission. The Hokage stopped his reminiscing and asked what the agenda was. This time was the elders that stepped forward, Kahara Utatane and Hamura Midokado, and said, "Uchiha-san wants Uzumaki Namikaze give up his possessions and knowledge and his soon-to-be wife to make him powerful and have children with a woman." Naruto did remain neutral and said nothing. Kurenai frowned as she saw his lips twitch downwards. His control was almost lost as he saw the Uchiha walk in with a smirk on his face and a leer at Kurenai, but his body remained motionless. The Hokage frowned when the boy came in with a smirk and a smug look to him, as if he was crowned king of the world. The Hokage did not have as much patience as everyone else and let loose his kai. Sasuke lost control of his body and started to shiver as sweat poured down his face. The Hokage bowed his head down to cover his smirk and started talking as if nothing had happened. "Uchiha-san, may I inquire as to why you have visited the council chambers without having an appointment or being a clan head?" "I came here to collect what is rightfully mine, the Dobe's power, and my soon-to-be wife." Naruto spiked his chakra and kai and directed them at Sasuke. This time Sasuke almost lost control of his bowels. Naruto spoke up, "Hokage-sama, I would like to request a duel to the death. The winner takes the loser's head home and puts it on a pedestal to showcase, and as an extra bonus the winner takes the loser's jutsu library and the estate. If I win I gouge out his eyes and put them on my mantelpiece and get the Uchiha Jutsu library and the Uchiha complex. The civilian council have no say in this as this is a matter between two founding clans of Konoha, so I would like them to leave." A fat man stood up objecting, "Watch what you say, demon filth. Don't threaten Uchiha-sama, he is superior to you in all ways, and what clan are you talking about? You are an orphan." Naruto looked at the man with a deadpan before responding, "Well then explain why I have been named heir of the Senju clan and currently hold the seat of the Namikaze clan, and in excess to that I am the sole heir of Konoha's ally the Whirlpool country, plus add to that I have the first Hokage's bloodline." Everyone looked shocked as the boy explained his history. Then another civilian, feeling he caught on to something, smirked and said, "Alright then, if you are the heir to the Senju and Namikaze clan and the heir of Whirlpool country, where's your proof, brat? Prove it and we will give you a seat on the council." Naruto pointed to the Hokage, who grinned and produced a scroll out of his robes with the Namikaze and Whirlpool clan symbols and passed them around the room. All eyebrows went up as they saw the contract being legitimate. Naruto motioned to Tsunade, who showed a scroll with the Senju symbol, the contract, stating that Naruto is adopted into the Senju clan as Tsunade's grandson. Finally, Naruto grew a tree out of the ground as proof that he had the wood style. The shinobi were ecstatic. The three legendary clans were being resurrected to boost Konoha reputation and increase missions, but the civilian were frowning along with Danzo. This was not going as planned. The brat was supposed to be at their mercy. The civilian council left the chamber, although a bit hesitantly. Everyone started murmuring about Naruto and what this could mean in the future. Naruto, thanks to council member Kaio, you will now have a seat on the shinobi council, and anything concerning the village security or your clan you shall be informed. Now your clan's specialty shall be Fuinjutsu, as you are well versed in that area. Sasuke became enraged that his demand had been ignored and screamed out in frustration before he could even talk. Naruto spoke up. Najiji, don't think I will forget his demands. Now I ask again on the same terms as before. I request a battle to the death, and just so I can prove this is legal, there is a law made by Hiroshima Senju and Madara Uchiha when they agreed to make Konoha that if a clan member challenges another clan member, if one of the members lose, the person shall be executed by the winner, and by default the winner gets all the members' valuable items. The Hokage sighed and said, Naruto, are you sure about this? You know your Aniki would be disappointed at you for even attempting this. Naruto flinched at this and shook his head. He would hate to even lose his Aniki, and pride be damned if an arrogant brat got between two brother duo. Sasuke smirked at this. The Hokage decided that he would knock the brat down a few pegs. He cleared his throat and said, Uchiha-san, you will be reprimanded for trying to take another shinobi's possessions. Not only that, but trying to take a possible wife from a founding clan heir can be considered an act of war if the woman wants nothing to do with you. It would spur a civil war, and trust me, there will be no one on your side because most people hated the Uchihas. The Hokage told Sasuke to leave and looked at Naruto pleadingly. Naruto sighed. Fine, I take my request back, but I request for a psychological report performed by a Yamanaka who is not an Uchiha supporter but does not hate him either. This should determine if the Uchiha and his team are able to handle being a ninja. I do not question Shino Aburam's skill, but the Uchiha and the Haruno are a disgrace to shinobis around the world. The Uchiha, after observing him on my wave mission, has no sense of who is ally and who is foe, even resorting to attacking me because I had skills that surpass his own. The Haruno is a chronic Uchiha supporter and only relies on him to help her if she is in a dangerous situation. She has neglected her own training in favor of watching the boy and asking him on dates. She is weaker than most first-year students at the academy that only learn how to throw kunai. She only passed because of the academy focusing most of its points on the paperwork and not on practicals like dispelling a jinjutsu, countering taijutsu, learning ninjutsu that rate from DC rank the proper way to block an incoming attack. From most of my observation, I went around the other villages with Uraya-sensei and noticed that all genin were able to perform the Academy 3 without seals before they even graduated the academy. I've also noticed that her mother takes advantage of being on the council, paying off all the teachers except Iruka, who she couldn't pay off as he threatened to report her to the Hokage. So in my final statement I say that the genin teams need evaluation on their skills and what they have been taught. A psychological report on those considered a flight risk, also the shinobi program being remade. The Hokage sighed and muttered under his breath. At a point they could have sworn that they heard the Hokage say yes, Hiroshima-sensei. A few snickered as the Hokage looked around. His eyes landed on the clan heads. His eyes lit up as an idea came to him. Inoichi, Shikaku, Chaoza, Hiashi, Tsume and Tsunade, I am making you in charge of this investigation. Starting with you, Inoichi, you will mind walk every genin to see if they are fit to be a shinobi. Then Shikaku, you will see if they have the strategies to become chunins. Chaoza, you will test them on taijutsu, and finally Hiashi and Tsume, you will test them in survival tactics and political encounters. Tsunade, I am going to give you the funding for the medical school that you wanted. Tsunade was ecstatic she could train future shinobi for the medical department, while the rest groaned about having to keep brats in check. The Hokage turned to the Aburam clan head and said, Shaibi, you will be changing the standards of the academy so that graduates are at least genin level. When the next batch of graduates come through, it will be training and C-rank missions for them. While the academy students will do the D-rank mission in teams organized by their senseis, and there will be no favoritism between children with clans. I want you all to start on this tomorrow and have a report on this within 3 days. I want to know if the teams are capable of becoming chunin. Anbu. As the Anbu on his left came to the front, he nodded and bowed. The Hokage wrote down a message on the scroll and told him to supply the message to the Jounin senseis. Alright, bring in the civilian council. After a few minutes the civilian council was assembled back into the room as the Hokage made an announcement. From now on, any civilian council member that tries to put a shinobi under their service without my permission, they will be executed without any delay. Danzo, your root shinobi will be now trained to be normal shinobi and mix into the Anbu to increase the ninja numbers. You are all dismissed except for Danzo, we still have business with you. As soon as the civilians left, Naruto sealed the room, barring anyone from leaving or entering. Council member Danzo, you are charged with treason for dealing with the Leaf's most wanted missing ninja Orochimaru and supplying him with troops for war against Konoha. You will be executed in 5 4 3 2 1. Now the Hokage's grin made Danzo panic. As soon as the Sandaime finished his sentence, Naruto moved like the wind, appearing right in front of Danzo, his fingers flaring purple as he shouted, "Fuinjutsu. Five-pronged seal." He slammed his fingers into Danzo's stomach, Naruto unsealed his sword, and just as Naruto was about to slice Danzo in half, Danzo's bandages on his arm ripped off to reveal the face of Hiroshima Senju. Tsunade became enraged as he saw the man had her grandfather's cells implanted into his body. Everyone was even more repulsed when the arm showed that it had 10 Sharingan eyes. Just as Naruto was about to decapitate the man, the mutated arm suddenly ripped off, growing to mass proportions and crushing the Sharingan eyes. Danzo panted harshly as he clutched onto his bleeding shoulder and glared at his rival. "Hiruzen Sarutobi, see what you have done, Hiruzen. Now the host is out of our control. He could turn on us any time. If only you didn't have any sympathy for those weapons, we could have ruled the world." Danzo finished his tirade as he gained a maniacal glint in his eyes. "If I die, I will take you all down with me," he laughed as he revealed a seal on his chest. Putting some blood on the seal, he formed as much chakra as he could and focused it to his chest. He screamed out as ink poured out and tried covering everyone, but was unsuccessful as Naruto put up a wooden barrier protecting everyone. Finally the ink stopped and a black sphere formed from the ink covering Danzo's body. Naruto felt the sphere gather chakra to the point of combustion. Naruto spiked his chakra and covered Danzo in a sphere with multiple layers of wood, earth and water. Naruto held onto the ram seal until the sphere he created bulged, then relaxed as Naruto let the sphere drop and panted. He had used up a lot of chakra using that kind of elemental composition. The Hokage asked around, making sure that everyone was alright. The Hokage turned to Naruto and asked, "Naruto, since you were the closest to him, do you know what happened?" Naruto stared at the bloody parts of Danzo before replying, "Yes, that is a suicide seal. It's called Fuinjutsu. Reverse 4 symbol sealing. It's supposed to be applied to Anbu ninja before, but was rejected because there wasn't a sealing master around. When the person it is applied to is killed, it will activate and suck in anyone within range of the ink that was spilling out. It can also be activated as a last resort to take out as many enemies as possible. The reason it's called reverse is because it seals chakra into the body instead of letting the body draw it like my seal for the Kyuubi, and it will keep collecting the chakra until it blows up." As Naruto finished his explanation, everyone looked at him admiringly and respectfully for his knowledge. The Hokage stood up again. "Naruto, for you to become clan head you will need to become Jounin, so I will give you an A rank mission. You are to lead a team composed of yourself and a Jounin and 2 Chunins. Regardless of failure or success, you will be promoted if the report given by your team state you are able to handle becoming Chunin. Be in my office after your evaluation has been done." Naruto nodded and grabbed Kurenai, who was watching everything with a frown as he sunshined them to her home. Unlocking the door, they went inside and sat on the couch. He turned to face her and said, "Kurenai, what do you think about this whole taking on another wife thing?" "I don't know. I knew this might happen, but I didn't think that it would be this soon, but oddly enough I don't feel affected by any of this." "Huh? Look, what I mean is that I don't care if you bring in another woman, as long as you love us both. Do you get it? But won't you feel jealous?" She smiled at him warmly. "Naruto, I said it's alright, but I will approve of the woman before you go any further than dating." "Okay. I guess. I just wish sometimes my life would be normal." "Is that just too much to ask?" "Well, if it was normal, you probably would have never met me. You would be either an arrogant brat like the Uchiha, or you would be an annoying kid who wants to get out his dad's shadow." Naruto snorted at the possibilities, but he had to admit she had a very good point. They never would have met, and he would never have gotten to be a father at his age. "Well, you bring up a good point, and I would never change this life if it made me lose you." He leaned in to kiss her, but just as their lips were about to touch, the doorbell rang, muttering about intrusive people coming in at the wrong moment. Naruto got up and opened the door to see Asuma Sarutobi. Asuma looked surprised to see him and said, "Naruto, what are you doing here?" Naruto smiled innocently and replied, "Well, can't I be at my future wife's house without being questioned?" Asuma became angry and said, "Nice try, kid, but Kurenai would never go out with a brat, let alone go as far as to get married." Naruto became angry, but before he could say anything, Kurenai put a hand on his shoulder as she spoke for him. "It's true, Asuma, I am getting married to him, and he and I have been dating for a long time now, so leave us alone." Asuma became angrier and shouted, "What is going on here? Kurenai, you constantly reject me for dates, then suddenly out of nowhere you are getting married, and to a brat no less. Gee, what's the brat done to you, huh? Used a seal on you to make you his slave? Did he use mind control using that demon's power, huh?" Kurenai became more and more enraged as he listed the reasons how she would be forced like Naruto. She stepped forward and slapped him in the face and kicked him in the groin. Ouch, Naruto thought, but Asuma deserved it. Naruto pulled Kurenai back before she could deprive the Sarutobi of his manhood. Naruto took her inside and closed the door, leaving a groaning man at her doorstep. Naruto sat her down on the couch, he noticed that her eyes still had the fire in them and he had to douse those flames and he loved this part. He kissed her lightly on the lips and pulled her closer to him and locked lips with her again and moved his tongue over her lower lip, asking for entry. She moaned as he caressed her back, running his fingers along the length of her curves. He pulled back as another knock sounded at the door. He groaned as he opened the door in his right palm, a Rasengan ready to hit Asuma if he bothered them again. As the door swung open, he saw Asuma fall to the ground again, but this time it was Anko who hit him in the groin. Anko walked past him muttering about stupid villager and not knowing the difference between master and student. Naruto stared at Asuma's stupidity. He knew that he had called her the snake bitch. It was a moniker given to her when she had come back with the curse seal of heaven, officially marked as Orochimaru's apprentice, but was abandoned when the seal did not activate. He had offered to remove the seal, but she had been very volatile to even approach subject. He sighed and closed the door again, leaving the Sarutobi on the floor groaning. He walked inside to see Kurenai sipping on the tea and Anko with a bottle of sake gulping it down, then throwing it at him as he walked past her. He caught it without batting an eyelash and threw it into the rubbish bin behind him, not even missing by an inch. Naruto walked into the kitchen and saw a teapot filled halfway. He grinned. He knew that Kurenai always made extra for him. He came back into the lounge room only to step back when he heard them engaging in a conversation. "You know, Kurenai, you are lucky to have Naruto. I'd give anything for something like what you have." Anko let that slip but didn't show any mind to it. "Yay, I guess you're right, Anko, thanks. Maybe I can help you find something like that." Kurenai grinned. "You know what? I'm going to take you window shopping for guys. We are going right now. Not like there will be anything I like, it wouldn't last," and they landed. "Come on, Anko, don't be like that. There's someone who you must be crushing on and someone who won't be like that to you." "Yay, well that's not an option now, is it, Kurenai?" Anko thought sadly but grinned at her friend. "Yeah, if you think so, then let's go shopping." As they finished their conversation, Naruto stepped out drinking his tea. Kurenai turned to him and said, "Naruto, Anko and I are going to head out for a little girl time, okay?" Naruto nodded and said, "Watch out for the groaning chain smoker. I heard he has a serious case of pissing people offness. Have good time." He smiled as he heard them both chuckle, and he heard Asuma groan again. Naruto thought it was because of the sound of flesh hitting flesh, but ignored it in the favor of drinking his tea. Sitting on a bench and just relaxing, Anko sighs contentedly as the rays warm her skin. "So tell me, is there anyone that you like?" Hearing her friend's voice, she opens her eyes and glances at her. "What do you mean, Kurenai?" Grinning at her friend's memory, she crosses her arms and looks around at all the people walking through the park, shinobi and civilians alike. "We are out here so we can help you get a man." Smirking at her friend's reaction, she continues. "There are lots of guys out here, you have to be interested in someone in the village, right?" "Oh, if only you knew," Anko mentally sighed but grinned at her friend to cover it up. "Well then, Kurenai, show me around and let's see." Hours passed and they bumped into a few people that flirted with Kurenai. There were a few that seemed to want Anko, but for all the wrong reasons, and there were those who were even afraid to approach her because of her reputation, and lastly there were those that just didn't like Anko. Sighing heavily, Kurenai turned to her best friend. "Anko, I don't think we're looking in the right village." "No need to look," she thought. Nodding, Anko plops down with her friend. "Maybe another time." Smiling, Anko grabs onto a kunai in her pocket and starts playing with it, waiting for what's to come next. "What do you mean, Anko, just going to give up like that?" Grabbing the kunai when her friend tossed it in the air, she rested in her hand. "Kurenai, I've been looking for anyone, for the past few years. I haven't met anyone that catches my interest and kept it." Anko said in a defeated, "That's a lie," she says, staring blatantly into the purple eyes of her friend. Shocked slightly, Anko stares back and fumbles with the words in her mind. Anko sighs and nods. "Then what is it, Anko?" "It's not something I'd rather talk about. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to open up to you like always, huh?" Giving off an awkward smile to her friend, Anko sees Kurenai nod. "Well, I suppose I'm jealous of you, Kurenai." Blinking a few times in shock, Kurenai backs away slowly and repositions her body to face Anko in the grass. "Why are you jealous of me?" Taking a slow breath, Anko said. "You finally found someone worth your time after all these guys flirt with you and ask you out simply because they all just wanted your body. But you still got attention and now you have something worthwhile, something that will last for a long time. I haven't even been flirted with by anyone." Growling slightly, she continues. "That man messed a lot up for me. I haven't been able to have that real feeling of a relationship or even dates really. I'm really happy for you, don't think I'm not, I'm just put off by the whole thing." Finally looking back into Kurenai's eyes after avoiding them the whole time she was talking, she waits for her reaction. Does she have a crush on Naruto? Kurenai blinks as she thinks this, but keeps a crucial eye on Anko as thoughts go through her head. "I don't doubt it," but she mentally trails off with a sigh. "So you are telling me that you like Naruto?" Anko turned red in the face and started sputtering. After a while she sighed and put her head down in shame. Kurenai looked to be in deep thought as she came to her conclusion. Her eyes lit up, she spoke to Anko. Anko, I want to tell you about something, it's a discussion we had to have with the Hokage. It was about his relationships with certain people. Well, since he is the last of his clans and one of them has a bloodline, he has to take on more than one wife, and after you telling me about your crush on him, I've come to a conclusion. I want to share him with you. Anko looked up and blinked and blinked and blinked. She finally leapt back, pointing an accusing finger at the red-eyed woman, her mouth agape. Who are you and what have you done with Kurenai? What do you mean? The Kurenai I know would never offer something like that. I'm offering it to you right now. Well, I don't know if he likes me at all, he won't even think of me that way because he has you. Kurenai put a finger to her lips, shushing her before speaking in a calm voice. Anko, you are my best friend, okay? I want you to be happy too, and if this is what it takes, then I will happily share Naruto with you. You will talk to Naruto and have him take you on a date, see if you both like each other and move on from there. The way you say it makes it sound so simple, how am I even going to ask him? Well, there's no need for that. Both jumped as they heard Naruto's voice from behind them. Naruto grinned like an idiot, while Kurenai and Anko both flushed red at being caught planning for Anko's date. You know, for Jounins you both have terrible skills in sensory. I've been following you guys since you left the house. They both blushed in embarrassment. Well, here it goes. Anko, you want to go out on a date tonight? Anko, too embarrassed to talk, just nodded shyly. Okay, I'll pick you up about 7:30. Naruto gave Kurenai a quick hug and a peck on the lips and left in a swirl of leaves to the Hokage tower. Kurenai took Anko's hand and led her back to the house and get her ready for the date.